Welcome to another edition of Laugh Your Way to the Top. I'm your host, Austin Fain. Today we have some cool people to talk to. Last week, I hope you watched Travis's episode. That was fun to do with him. Today, I have another competitor. Side note, if anyone's looking to sponsor the podcast, if you do clothing or apparel, or if you do manufacture of like certain stuff like screws or underlayment or something like that, and you want to reach out, you want to sponsor stuff, I'll wear that shit. I'll put it on the fucking thing. We'll do advertisements, whatever. I'm gonna be in a brand tour at this point. Just reach out to us and put something on there. Until then, this podcast sponsored by Perfect Steel Solutions, because I own this shit. So until then, it'll just be sponsored by Perfect Steel, which, okay. You're probably seeing this after the new year. So we're recording this right at the end. So I'm hoping everyone has had a good Christmas and a good New Year. Wish you all the best. Today, joining me from a company down the road, company called Allied Exteriors. Do I get that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And his name's Armando, and I won't try to butcher his whole fucking name because he's got 4 of them. But like he has been a friend and of many people that work here, and he has actually worked for me in the past, and he has his own thing. They're doing great things, and we're going to talk to him today about some business stuff, about some lifestyle stuff. He's finally been in the game at the top level and trying to figure some stuff out, wanted to rap a little bit on camera, off camera, and so we're going to see what he's got to say. Armando, welcome to the podcast, buddy.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here. First question, though, I got to start off with your sponsorship. What kind of sponsorship are you looking for? I hear you always mentioning that. I hear you talk about,
I don't know, man. Like,
sponsored by Perfect Steel.
It's just like, maybe there's a little bit of credibility once you get sponsored. And I just want like some, like even like Burn Apparel. Like even if they would come in and be like, I'll give you $100.
Sure.
And you wear these beanies. And I'll be like, yeah. I mean, at some point it would be cool to know that, it would be sponsored or something like that. I don't need the money and things like that.
No,
but I think it would help I made a promise to my producer, Luke, that if we ever got sponsored past the cost of this, I would give it all to him. I'll do this stuff for the business and the views and the likes and the subscriptions and like the general pull that it will bring in. And I go, you can have everything past what I pay you. You can have that. So if it starts making $100, $200K a year,
you're like nonprofit,
you can have that, bro.
Sure.
I don't want to pay you anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe the production will get better, and I won't. Maybe I'll have an actual studio like Joe Rogan style eventually.
I know. I was thinking somebody in the back.
It's not just like a thing, and there's people working out in the background, and we got people talking the thing, so it's like maybe eventually it'll create more. Maybe we'll have like the snippets, where they put graphics on the screen. Maybe I'll have like a Jamie, like if you ever watch Joe Rogan,
That's
there's
what,
like a Jamie,
maybe
I'll have that like full time. If I'm paying him $200K a year, he'll sit in the back
and then it'll like throw it up on the screen.
Right now, I'm just doing like the poor man's version where I type it on my iPad and bring it up there. So
fair.
I think I think it can get better over time. It's not apparent that I do that, but
Well, you're a very young podcast. I feel like, when sponsorship starts coming around, it's when you have that following. When the following starts to grow, then you start seeing people knock on your door like, okay, let me advertise a little bit.
Yeah. And the podcast, again, if you've watched the episodes, the podcast isn't the draw, it's the snippets that you get from the podcast. Me and you will talk about something that I'll take a minute or a minute and 30 seconds out, and we'll put that as a short TikTok, Instagram live, reel, blah, blah.
Yeah, like me
and
picking my nose.
Those will get 9,000 plus views. And that is the real magic. No one's going to sit here and listen to us talk for 2 hours, 30 minutes. My podcasts are way too long and way too uninteresting.
Okay.
Like,
all right. So I'm like a loser that watches every minute.
Well, a lot of people they listen to every minute.
Yeah, fair.
No one watches. Except I had one guy that worked for me, and him and his wife would turn it on at the end of the night. I'm like, please don't do that. Like, I don't want to ruin your guys' shit by like watching it on the big screen.
Sure.
But it is shot in 4K. So if you wanted to see it,
that's where how I view it. I do YouTube. And a lot of times, that's where I catch it at. So like, and then I usually will get notified when it's up, every Tuesday, which ironically, this past one with Travis, I haven't seen yet. But a lot of times I'm at the YMCA working out. So I'll have it kind of going in the background. I like to stay in the know, I guess. But a lot of times I'll hear you talk about sponsorship and it'll be like 12 views. And I'm like, we got to bump those numbers up, bro.
The numbers suck. The numbers suck. I get 10,000 on the shorts and I get 15 views per week on an episode.
Yeah,
so
well, 10,000 views on the shorts
YouTube.
is
We're doing a
impressive.
little bit better on Spotify and things like that.
Okay.
couple hundred views,
sure,
but it's not. No one's watching. You can see the metrics on it. No one's watching 2 hours and 30 minutes of my podcast. So it is what it is. It's something new.
Yeah.
It's so boring in our roofing culture. Like, I'm sure all your posts are the same thing of all my posts have been for the last 3 years. Look at this roof before, and then now look at this roof. If roof is pretty with metal, and you need to call us because roof pretty, and roof pretty, we can do pretty roof.
Like
it's
roofing
like
101.
Oh, dude, it's so boring. And so like I need to do something else. So like the ice cream giveaway, the supercar giveaway, the podcast, dude, like just make something somewhat interesting.
You know what would be really good, and if you can get this figured out. You'd be gold. I mean, it's a great opportunity. I can't get my guys to do it to save my life, but it's shorts while they are up on the roof installing. One thing that I noticed is that I got guys who are buddies of mine that have been roofing in construction for years, and I always see their stories on Facebook where they're up on a roof and they're showing what they've done and they're doing the tear off and they're laughing with their guys, but they do a lot of before and afters, and it's those stories. And when I talk to them, they're like, I drum up a ton of business. And he goes, people I never would have thought of because they're just seeing my stories.
Yeah.
But I'm not up on the roof all the time. You know, we're growing past that. You know, it used to be every roof we did, I was up on.
Every roof?
Oh, yeah. I was a very
You think the first like 100 roofs you were on every single one?
Not the first 100, no.
Yeah. Because I was like, I've been on less than 100 still.
But every roof in the first year, I was there for installation. I made sure that all of our guys had food. That was we got a reputation for a little bit there that, these guys get us lunches every time. And for me, it was a big learning experience because there was a lot about the industry that I was still unaware of. I had actually done some work for free for some Amish guys that reached out to a buddy and was like, hey, we're looking for somebody for day labor. So I did a tear off with them. And that's, I kind of learned some different like no-nos. I learned how much more difficult a 2-layer tear off is than a 1-layer. Because I always thought like, gosh, why is it so much more expensive? Well, those pieces are coming off in quarter-sized pieces. And if they just go to the ground, it's a 6-hour cleanup. I mean, it's brutal.
Tell me your worst tear off to date.
My worst tear off to date would probably be
layers or type or whatever.
It wasn't layers. It was deck boards. It was we go to open it up. Okay, I guess this was the job we took an L on. It was
well, trust me, when we talk about going bad on tear offs, we take L's on them. And I think I talk about it either on the last podcast or the podcast before that, where I opened it up, and I think I got some responses on Facebook of like, what do I do if you start a job? We quote you $18,000 for your simple ranch house, and we get in there and there's 6 layers.
Yeah.
And then it needs to be completely redecked. Like, which is another probably $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what do you do? Like if it was my mom and dad and I had been sold, they had been sold X $18,000, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then now it seems like they open up the roof. Now there's a hole in the roof.
Yeah.
At some point. And now you got to be like, well, if you want us to finish the job, another $7,000.
So,
and like, I have not been able to successfully convert those, either morality wise or just like, some people don't got it. Sometimes like when they choose us, like that's it. They go, you were more expensive than the last 3 people, but like, we trust you. We know that you're going to do a job. You have a great name, blah, blah, blah. And this was our top end was like 17,000, and we found another $1,000 to do this job, and now another 5,000. I'm like, we got to take an L. Yeah, we got to take an L.
So and then there's also a difference. Like when you take a loss, there's a big difference too between not taking profit and it's a loss because you broke even, and you could have been on a job that you potentially made money because you got to grow,
like an opportunity cost.
Or there's just genuinely you're in the red on the project, and I would say. For us, and the way we typically handle decking, not so much the tear off. We will always eat the tear off, but for the decking, especially when like lumber alone is $3,000-$4,000, I usually will get the guys know to get to a point where they uncover it right away to a point that they can't repair what they did.
Oh, always.
So then I call the homeowner, and I was like, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, this is the situation. We started to open up the roof. This is what we're looking at. Of course, we could not know about this prior to us opening up, so we have 1 of 2 options. I'll say, John, we can either repair everything that we've done, and you won't owe us a dime, and we'll go our separate ways. And I completely get it. I'm not going to invoice you for what we have done. Or if you would like to move forward, the only way to do this correctly is this much money in lumber. And I give them the option. And usually when I give them the option, I have not yet had somebody back out because they're like, well, it needs to get done the right way. And I feel like because I give them the option at no cost to them, and this is only when it's so expensive, we just physically can't eat it. Like, if it's
I feel like that's the only time it happens.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like every project that's over $35,000-$40,000 is when it happens to me, and it's an old house that's been built on 3 or 4 times.
Well,
and
so like there'll be scenarios where it's a large roof, our margins were healthy, and the garage needs redecked, and we're looking at $1,500.
Yeah,
right?
we're not worried about that. We're not
we'll eat it.
We're not sweating that.
It's fine. You know what I mean? We're not going to bother the homeowner. But if it's something where it's a very small roof, and the whole roof needs redecked, and now we're looking at $3,000, which is more than what the company's even making on the project. Then it's like, okay, I'll let me give them the option because we'll still pay our guys. I mean, we have to pay our guys hourly, right? It's going to cost us money. But we at least give them the option and say, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, you have 1 or 2 options. Here's what it is. And I've always been met with great responses. Usually nobody is either mad, they're upset that's what happened. I would also say, but the worst job we had, it was so steep, and it was 3 layers. It was 2-layer shingles plus cedar shake, and it needed decking, and it was steep, and it was up in Goshen. That my crew manager had everything set up for that day, and he was like, I got to walk off this job. It hadn't got to the point he was able to make it watertight, repair what they did, but because what they thought it was going to be 1 layer, because that was we thought it was going to be 1 layer. Sometimes contractors from the past will hide other layers very well.
So that's when I'll jump in and talk about it. Yeah. So my worst one, and I have one every year, is another worst one. But we had a giant 46, 50 square job, and they said it was 2 layers, which we were completely okay with, whatever. And what happened was I have a measuring guy that goes out and inspects all the jobs before, so that way we can get the accurate measurements, so that way we can make it in the factory and go out. And his job is also to catch how many layers. What had happened was they did 2 layers, and then they fucking decked the entire fucking house. Underneath that was 2 more layers of shingles, and then a cedar shake and slat boards.
Yep.
So total, technically, if you add the substrate in there, was 6 layers total. And I don't know if you charge more for cedar shake tear off. We do. And like, it was just, I had 3 dumpsters there. I had 3 dumpsters. It was nuts. We're going into our 4th week of doing the project currently.
Oh, wow. So you're still on it currently.
Oh, yeah. We were supposed to get it done today, and it didn't happen. We cut a panel wrong, and so now we have 1 more day on it.
Sure.
I don't know if you've ever happened.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 1 more day now.
Step on a rib wrong.
Step on, break on it. The wind catches it, bends it, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So now we're on it. It's insane. That dude, he at least covered the cost of the materials, like you said. We came after him and was like, dude, it'd be like another $12,000, $15,000 to do this tear off. Like if we would charge you and make money off of it, but I need $7,500.
Yes.
For the 3 dumpsters and all of the wood that I need to do.
100%, we do not charge them what our traditional price would be, because prior to going out to the job, there's a lot of things wrapped up into ordering material,
marketing,
not just
sales,
marketing,
gas, fucking everything.
So knowing that when you have to pay people accordingly, you have to price things a certain way. Well, once the project's set in stone, if there is something that was unforeseen, then as long as the customer agrees to it, it's always our at cost. It's always our at cost. We did have one customer where his roof wasn't that steep. He had just got done paying. I don't want to poop on any companies, but there is a gutter company out there that is outrageous, and they're nationwide.
Dude.
Nationwide.
We've talked about it several times.
They do
There's companies that are like $35, $50 a foot.
Yeah.
It's insane. For gutters and guards, do not pay. Do not pay over $20 a foot for gutters and guards. Do not pay over 20. And now you can get premium guards and premium gutters for like $30, maybe top end. If you're paying $50 a foot, you need to kick those people out of your house.
Absolutely.
They're terrible. You can't put them back in. If you ever need a roof repaired or replaced or anything, you can't save them. It's terrible. He's probably going to tell that story right now. I won't cut him off, but do not Do not fucking buy from these people.
So, and these were 4.5-inch troughs, right? The gutter itself was 4.5 inches, and he was stressed that he just got done paying like $7,000 for these new gutters, and his house is little. It was a little house. It wasn't like he had something like 200 feet of gutters. And I said, and it's a lifetime warranty. So I said, okay, what I will guarantee you is that when it rains, if the water is moving so fast that it does overshoot those 4.5 inches, we will come out and we will do our gutters 100%. Just the cost of the material. You won't pay labor. You won't pay anything above that. We'll warranty them. But I actually have a representative who works with me. He goes out, does field estimates. And he used to work for the big gutter company.
Yeah.
It's a leaf gutter guard company. They're known for targeting elderly people.
Yeah. For an absorbent amount.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking, it would have been 5-6 years ago he worked for them. And at that time, they were charging $48 a linear foot for the guards, not new gutters, for just the leaf guards, which is astronomical. He would often talk like people would pay $5,000-$6,000 for just the gutter guards. And he goes, how many times could you pay somebody $100 to go and clean out your gutters if they get full? You know, maybe once a year, twice a year, $100 before you finally, use up that $6,000. But of course, all their advertising targets the elderly. They're not a Fortune 500 company, but they are a large company. But yeah, it is awful. I would definitely say that. Yeah. If you're there, and pricing's different, profit's not a dirty word. Everybody knows that, but there is a point where, their margins are so ridiculous that, it's really unethical what they charge.
Correct.
Realistically.
Correct. There's no amount of service you could be like, this is what this is. Like,
absolutely.
This is not okay.
When it comes to pricing, I often break down things for any of our customers and I say, we are 100% going to be more expensive than a gentleman working out of his house and pays his crews by the day. And all he's charging you is just his labor hours. We are a brick and mortar business. We have people in customer service. We have people in marketing. The owners of the companies are not installing the roofs, right? Whereas if you have a gentleman where he's the owner of the company and he's the main guy installing the roofs with a few buddies, he's always going to beat our price. But what we can guarantee is to come out, no questions asked, to fix whatever problems there are. And you can always be there to return a phone call or answer a phone call. That's a big deal, and that goes into affecting that price, right? Oftentimes, I always say, like, if the guy installed your roof, he's the owner of the business, and he's installing the next guy's roof, and you have a problem, how likely, you've already paid him, how likely is he going to take your phone call? He knows you're calling him because of an issue.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things. And I hope, too, that we're able to talk more than just roofing. I was going to ask you, do you ever see yourself differentiating, laugh your way to the top away from roofing? I know Perfect Steel Solutions sponsors it. I respect it. You're probably like shelling out. So you're like $10,000 an episode.
Yeah.
But
it sucks.
You're like moving money around.
It's fine.
But realistically, do you see yourself? I mean, of course, the factory is a beautiful backdrop, but, do you ever see yourself talking more about business related, comedy related, whatever it is that interests you versus just roofing? Because I feel like we're always talking about roofing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been approached a couple times, and I'm sure that you have too, for people that, there's stages to this growth, right? There's year 1, then year 1 through 3, and then there's 3 to 6, and then obviously like 5 to 10.
Sure.
And like those are different stages that, at least in the roofing industry, that I'm very aware of. Like, there's just stages that you go through. No one remains stagnant. You figure out where you're going to be and what market you want to be and what your niche is during those times. And like what stage you're usually ahead of at least somebody else. And then they want to figure out what you figured out, and they'll pay a premium to do that. Mm-hmm. And so people will contact me and be like, whoa, why don't you start my canvassing program? Why don't you do a sales thing? Why don't you? And we'll pay you. And I'm like, listen, I'm still figuring out this shit. Mm-hmm. Like, and I don't think I'll ever be an expert, because every year, like, the most insane things happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I haven't figured it all. I haven't seen it all yet, to be able to go do that. I don't think that there's not enough growth for me to make this not interesting. I mean, you came with me when I was in mid-level, probably mid to high. I think you were in this factory when I just started it. That was in that fucking 3 to 6 year range where I'm like,
sure,
let's try something and see if it works out. And since then it's been very successful and it's been cool to grow. Went from 6 to 10 people when we started, and then now 75 to 85 people. It's sort of insane. And we haven't even tapped commercial. We haven't tapped selling our metal to anyone else. We haven't tapped any of these nuanced things that would make it more interesting if we figured out completely how to maximize, those revenue streamlines. Like, we still only have the 2 offices, the one here and the one in Indy.
Yeah.
And so I think that, like going and branching out, yet I still feel like it's viable for me to be an everyday part of this organization. I did hire Tyler, who's been on a previous one. He's now our COO,
sure.
And he will be taking a lot of the accountability with the managers and installing systems in place to make it more doable. There's a quote, or at least a system that some people teach, where it's like, what's your bus rating?
Sure.
And it's like, if you're driving the bus, if you die, what happens to the bus?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you have enough people to take over?
Yeah.
Does the sales hurt? Does the marketing hurt? Does the blah, blah, blah? Can it function without you? Until I get to that point, like, I'll still drive the bus, and then we'll figure out the next thing.
So, a couple things. First, I would like to say, and I know, you and I we don't hang out after work. We are, I like to.
I've drank with you one time.
Yeah.
You drank one time?
One time, yeah.
I don't even think you worked for me at that time.
I think, I've always respected you as a man. I think that when I watch and observe, I think one of the best things you ever did was hire a COO.
Yeah.
I feel like because that individual, and of course I guess I don't know you well enough to say, he seems like he's somebody that's outside of your network.
Yeah.
Maybe you met him and became friends with him because he was helping you business-wise, but you brought in somebody outside of your inner circle.
Yeah.
And as just business, right? Roofing aside, whatever aside, I think that was probably one of the smartest business moves you made.
I'm soft. So I can't.
Caveat on you being soft.
I can't. I really can't. I really can't hold the managers enough accountability, because they're all my best friends, coworkers. I've seen these guys work from sailing steamer, making $12 an hour now,
sure.
6 figures, and like running this company, and they need leadership outside of the friend stuff.
I mean, you hit it on the head. Leadership, 100%. So for me, and I have my own opportunities. I'm not the perfect leader by any means, but for my partners and my managers, there's always accountability. I'm extremely big on accountability, and oftentimes I'll talk to the guys who are my partners. We're all equals, and I'll say, like, though we laugh a lot and we may drink at lunch, or we may share good times and talk about our families and care about each other's personal growth. Make no mistake, we are in this because we bring value to the table, and when you stop bringing value to the table, you're out.
Yeah.
Because this is how I provide for my family, which is, to me, the single most important thing, right? Is my children, right? The roof over the head, the food on their table. My wife is a dental hygienist, and she stays at home with the kids, all 3 kids. So to me, anything that would be a direct attack on that, I take very seriously. Not to mention, any managers that we put in place, their productivity, like how all of a sudden, like, did I get to this point and now I'm starting to kick back a little bit?
Yeah, no, it happens.
And I'm like, wait a minute, because then I have to have those tough conversations, letting people go. Those are tough conversations. But that, to be an effective leader, even though we're all scared of it, it's kind of like sales, right? When you pull up to the first house, you're like, there's the butterflies, right? Am I going to sell this one? Am I going to help this person? Is this person even a qualified candidate? We all have those thoughts go through our head.
Is this person even home?
Is the person even home? Same thing as being a leader. Nobody likes to have the tough conversations, but if you are going to look in the mirror and want to grow as an effective leader, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
I figured out that I was more the facilitator.
Sure.
The 30,000 foot down person, the person that has the, and probably like you, if everyone else fails you, you can go do it.
Sure.
If all your salespeople suck, you'll go sell.
Sure.
If all the marketing people suck, you'll go market.
Sure.
If all your installers suck, you'll go install. And like that has been my only saving grace in doing this is like that whole thing is like I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
Now it's so big that I literally could not do it anymore by myself.
It's a different business model than when you started.
Yeah. When I was living in here in the trailer and making the metal every morning and doing all that kind of stuff, I could do it. I drove the metal myself. I made the metal myself. I delivered the metal myself. I did all that stuff. And I could still go sell and market and do all and control all those things and manage those processes and stuff. Well, now when you have 75 people, like it's not to the point where I don't know everybody's name, but it's to the point that like I couldn't literally go do one thing right now.
Yeah.
I literally couldn't do one thing. It would take away from way too much. And that's where Tyler comes in, where you can do like, well, we'll manage this process. We'll put these things in place and these markers to know that these processes are healthy enough to keep on going. And super boring. But
would you not? No, I don't think. I love business. All things business. Would you not then say that's the whole point of growth and automation? Not because you automate things because you're like, okay, now I get to kick my feet up and watch Netflix and drink Bang all day long or have alcohol in the office. That's not the point of automation. The point of automation is kind of like to what you described, whereas now your time is so valuable and there's only 24 hours in a day. Time is the only resource that we don't get unlimited of. Right? You can make all the money, spend all the money, whatever you want to do. Time is against all of us. So that being said, I'll give you an example. My father's a retired man. He's retired from AP. He was a lineman.
So he made crazy money.
Well, no, not at all. Blue collar guy. My family has an interesting past. My father, worked 11 years in International Harvester. Or at International Harvester in Fort Wayne. I don't know how much you know the story, but
I've never heard it.
Never heard of it? Okay.
No. Okay. I just know of your naval background, and that's pretty much it.
So International Harvester, little Fort Wayne history for you. Do you ever wonder why, when you go towards the south side of town, when you get past the post office downtown and you're headed towards Pontiac Street, that there are gorgeous homes? Though that is a very low-income neighborhood, very beautiful homes.
Yeah.
Okay, Harvester.
Well, I know that story only because Bill Bean, my buddy, owns all those buildings now.
Okay.
That they went out, and that used to be like a big thing. Like
so when they left,
International Harvester, all that stuff was over there.
When they left, they laid off 11,000 people. So 11,000 people hit the job market at once in Fort Wayne. The suicide rate was astronomical. People were leaving in droves, and that's just Harvester. That doesn't include all the businesses that existed to support Harvester, right? I mean, it was like a ghost town over there. So my father is a father of 5, went from a Harley, a Camaro, right, bunch of cars, nice house, to food stamps, right? And then finally got into AP, where he became a lineman. My mother, post office, right? So very blue-collar family. They've worked very hard for what they have. Ironically, I'm getting off I digress, right? He's retired. I pay him, $40, whatever it is, to cut my grass. And my brothers poke fun of me a little bit, like, cut my own grass. But I just happen to value, it's beer money for him, right? It's a little bit of extra spending money for him. So he enjoys it. He's doing nothing else.
Think about moving around?
But and I was born, I'm the baby of all my cousins. I'm the baby of the family. My mom had me at 40 years old. So my parents are well into their 70s, and he cuts my grass. My parents babysit, but I value that 45 minutes that it takes to cut my grass to give to my children, because otherwise I'm at work, whereas if I'm at home and I'm doing some chores that I could just resource, source out, then to me, I value that. You know what I mean? It's not like I can't cut my grass. I mean, I pay for everything. I can cut my grass. I used to cut grass when I was a kid for a living, right? Go door to door. But it's not that. I'm just saying that's why we automate things. That's the point of all of it.
If you automate things with the customer focus in mind, it gets way better, right?
Sure.
So like,
or your standard.
People want to go like, it'll be easier. It'll be less work for the reps. It'll be easier for the marketers to do it. That's not the point. People want that to make it easier for employees, and I get it. Like, you want to make it easier for your people. You can only look at it from a customer-centric approach. Are they getting serviced better by everything that you put in? Are they more communicative and like they're in the loop? All these things, if you do it with that in mind, everything gets better. Because if obviously they're happy,
sure,
everyone else is happy.
Absolutely.
The world goes around one more spin.
Absolutely.
Like people want to do, like we've talked about previously about some people bringing in like different companies to help them out and train them up and use different systems and stuff like that. They might be looking at it as like a tool to when they go sell their company and do all that kind of stuff,
sure,
that it looks better, it's more precise, and there's less stuff to do man hours wise.
Okay.
But it may not be directly impacting the customer's well-being. Cool. It's easier to quote houses and you might be more fast and the measurements might be a little bit more correct and all. But if it didn't help the customer, then you're just spinning your wheels. Like everything you do has to help the customer. Every raise you give to somebody, every new system you put in place, everything has to be done thinking like the customers will be better because this person's here doing that task.
I fully agree with that. But case in point, you talk about other aspects to the business where maybe training other companies in a certain area, right? A certain channel of your company. How many times have you had a good idea and you're like, man, I think this is a good idea. I think with tinkering with this, I could really take off as far as increase, traffic, increase revenue, grow the company to what I want. And it's this great idea, good opportunity, but Austin Fain is so stretched thin on his time, he's not able to really dedicate what he needs to try to get something new off the ground. That's where that automation comes into play. You cannot compromise the quality by any means. I'll never say that.
Yeah.
Don't go cheap to increase revenue. Don't cut corners. If you put certain people in place to automate what you do, they have to do it to your standard.
Yeah.
And then they got to be trained. You have to train them.
I'm different.
Sure.
It's not healthy what I do. We're going on, it's 8 o'clock at night. I've been here since 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I technically start working out, but like not working.
Fair.
But I'm here at 6 a.m. It'll be 9, 10 o'clock. It'll be 9, 10 o'clock before I'm out of here. And I'll do that 6, 7 days a week. I don't care. I am more quality time than quantity of time. Like, I'm always that. So, like, you think on the scale of if I could have 40 more minutes a day.
Yeah.
I think if I could have years with my son in his teens to go do different stuff, that's what I would rather do, not work at all.
Okay.
And be able to have something that my mind works differently like that. I'm missing a lot of stuff, that case in point, like I'm missing a lot of that stuff, but I have a different mindset to what I have, at least that my father, who sometimes will be on this podcast, I'm not sure when to release that episode, but he worked a lot. He was traveling, I think it was 35 weeks a year when he was growing his company.
Okay.
And, that's a lot, being out of the house 35 weeks a year. I mean, you're no stranger to being on duty and things like that, and leaving your family and stuff like that. But, like, that's a lot for either marriage and kids and stuff, all of them to handle. But then now in my late teens and early adulthood, 21 through 20, we got to go do some amazing things together that opportunities would not be presented if my parents, would have both worked, medium level jobs, have been home every night at 5 and done all that
Absolutely.
stuff. It would not have been the same. We're traveling the country. We're shooting wild game all over the world. We are doing we're doing some crazy stuff, and that afforded me different opportunities as well. And so, like, I kind of looked at that, I go, that made sense to me, and that's why I'm kind of copying. I don't think that's healthy for everybody to go, let me put off my child's life until later on, but I'm just weird that maybe when he's not making the most memories right now, I'll be a little absent, and then when he becomes, 8, we start doing some stuff.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it has nothing like.
You have 3 though. I have 1.
Yeah,
so that's different too.
There's nothing.
They need all different things.
I'm not saying
Big Daddy.
There's nothing wrong with roughnecking it. All right. I mean, I know guys that go out to oil rigs for 7 months out of the year. Right. There isn't any, I mean, everybody has to do what they have to do to provide for their family. Though, and trust me, I hear it too at home. Like, I wish you could be home more. I wish you could be more involved. I think I'm a very involved father. My dad, I had no relationship with my dad until I was in high school when we were watching Orange County Choppers together. Right. He's the one that inspired me to get into welding. Caveat, I learned from the podcast that you were a welder. That's pretty cool. And he's the one that started taking me to swap meets. Prior to that, my dad was a scary dude. And when he came home, you walked the other way because he was tired from work. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I have those conversations too, like with my wife. And I'm like, my father was a strong disciplinarian. He ruled with an iron fist. Never beat us up out of anger. My dad never kicked our ass because he
never
pissed,
took his day out on you.
But did he spank us when we broke windows and broke things we weren't supposed to break? Yeah. Did I had a brother that destroyed a car, and did he get punished? He did. But all I'm saying is that, my kids see a lot of me now, and that's more than what I ever saw when I was a kid. Cool. Right. But I guess what I'm trying to say too is like that maybe that's important to me. Cool.
It is. It's healthy, I think.
So I make that a priority.
It's healthy.
Perfect.
Travis was the exact same way.
And I'm in no way saying you should be at home more. I'm just asking you the general question. Yeah. Do you feel like, because like you said, 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
And you're hammered to nail out here, right? Not literally hammered to nail, but you're out here grinding, looking around, what needs to be done. You're doing it, whether it's cleaning the floors, taking out the trash. There is no job too small for Austin, and that's an incredible leadership skill.
Yeah.
I guess my question to you, though, is do you ever stop and think I could be more efficiently if I didn't have to spend the time doing X, Y, and Z? And I should put leadership in place to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, that's why Tyler came around, not for those reasons, though. The reasons was I'm soft. I'm soft. You know that my best friend runs. My best friend runs the canvassing. That fat Mexican that runs the canvassing department.
Who also got me into the industry.
And my other best friend runs the sales department.
Yeah.
My other best friend runs the operations. And
everybody's the best.
It's like
you got a lot of best
luckily
friends.
They happen to be like the dudes that can take care of stuff, and they're not just there because they're nice to me. Like they're the dudes.
Yeah.
But when they fall short of the goal, I'm less hard because I'm like, oh yeah, he just had a baby, and they, the baby had croup, and like, he already took 3 weeks vacation, but like, obviously you need to stay and, do stuff with them. But the gutter guys and the window guys aren't blah, blah, blah. And, the sales guys, like they're not putting their notes at night, but like, the other guy just had, his wife left him. So like, we have to be like a little, I'm like, I can't hold that standard across the board because I'm too close to that stuff. And so that's where and then 2, I'm not smart enough to be out of the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
So, like, I have to be doing stuff. Like, I left for, I think, an hour today to go home and shave. I shaved for this thing.
Right on. I appreciate it.
And took a shower. And when I got back, I had lost, like, it felt like 5 hours because they broke a panel on a job, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Happens.
Happens.
We have 75 people that work here. Somebody run out the panel. So we made the panel. Then they took a box truck out. The box truck broke down on the way. Okay.
Murphy's Law, right?
Okay. The operations then went to rescue that dude. They didn't get the panel in time, so they stood there for another 4 hours waiting for see if they could get there.
Yeah.
They didn't get it there. And I wish that I was just here, because if I would have been here, I'd been like, hey, sometimes the turbo hose clamp comes off of the Isuzu box truck. And if they would have just called me, I'd have been like, hey, man, just put it back on. It's fine. Like, it's one of those things that, like, it happens, but no one called me. So now we have tow trucks involved. We have operations manager that's out of the thing, not doing that stuff. We didn't get the job done today, all that other stuff. And I was like killing myself. I'm like, I should have been in there because I'm the only one that knew every ins and outs of, like, I could have fixed that problem way better.
Okay. So tough question.
Yeah.
All right. Now, and this is just businessman to businessman, right?
Okay.
I'm in no way, I love everything about your guys' business. I think you guys are awesome. So my question to you now as a business owner, based on what you just said about what the actions that happened today, because I had something similar happen to us, and we had to let people go.
Yeah.
But obviously the most efficient thing to do, because how many guys are on this crew right now that are out there?
9
people. And you were talking about 4 hours of downtime, 9 people that you're paying.
$20 to $30 an hour.
Quite a bit of money.
Gas is $100 a day for each box truck they take out.
Sure.
2 box trucks.
Now you got tow trucks involved. Now, in my opinion, leadership put in place should have known, like, guys, we have to be efficient when we're on site. So, okay, this got broken. Screw it in. Tack it on. Let's get the rest of the roof done. Now, That was today. Today is Thursday. Is that fair to say? Or today's Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Thursday, crew's got another job. 2 guys go out there with the new panel. Bing, bang, boom. Clean everything up. Boom. Like, in my opinion, who allowed all that craziness to happen, because that cost Austin Fane, cost Perfect Steel Solutions a chunk of money. And accountability doesn't have to be like, hey, man, do it again, you're fired. It has to be like, hey, let's do some discovery, right? Yeah. Hey, let's talk about this. Yeah. So I had in-house guys, all right, and the person that we hired to lead the cruise. What ended up happening was tore off a roof. Found out we needed, 32 OSB boards, whatever it was. We have a dump trailer. Dump trailer's full of trash.
Do you like dump trailers?
I love them. Yeah. Okay. One of the best investments we made.
Okay.
We've talked about an Equipter, but I don't know. We haven't really pulled the trigger on Equipter yet.
It doesn't hold that much.
Dump trailer was usually one of the best investments. Now, we still do roll-offs.
How many tires do you buy a year with dump trailers?
So far just one.
No way.
Yeah, so far just one.
That was my biggest concern. Is man, they're gonna fucking run over a ton of fucking screws.
Again, accountability, right? Like, when our guys do dumb shit, I'm gonna talk to them, and they don't want to be talking to. So that creates an environment where it's like, okay, maybe we apply a little common sense, because nobody's going to take care of your shit better than you.
True.
100%, right? So if Armando's going to talk to you because you're reckless with the shit, I'm going to start asking questions. I'm going to talk to you the way my father talked to me, which is make you feel dumb for this happening.
One of my worst qualities.
So because of that, guys, that kind of goes into play. So this is what ended up happening. Need new wood. Now, I don't know how much you know about OSB. I'm sure you know a lot. I could go to Lowe's with my pickup truck, load up 32 sheets of OSB. I mean, when you back right up to the pallet, you could slide it in at first, and then get it out to the job site. What ended up happening was the manager at the time, it's a 4-man crew, told 2 of the guys, go take the dump trailer, dump it, and then we will meet you at Menards. The other 2 guys, we'll let us know when that's empty, and then we'll meet you at Menards. We'll get it loaded up, and then we'll go to lunch. So essentially, now it's a hydraulic dump trailer.
Yeah.
It doesn't take 2 guys to empty it. It empties itself, right? I mean, only one guy's driving, and then you hop out and you push a switch. So because in my mind, when I'm being told that this all went down, I'm thinking to myself, 4 guys are now off where only 1 guy needed to be off. Not only did that cost us money, that cost us time. The homeowners now have an exposed roof unnecessarily. Those are the things that irk me a little bit. So we start having tough questions. We ended up letting somebody go. One thing that was big that I learned was money doesn't solve all the problems. You can't throw money at every problem thinking that it's going to be fixed. And by that means, you think you hire leadership and you pay them well, and they're going to treat it like it's their business. No, nobody's going to treat it like their business. We were looking for somebody to run a more efficient job site. And as soon as they stepped on the team, they were looking for leadership. They were reporting to us. What do you want with this? What do you need this? What do you want me to do here? And I was like, man, that's why we're paying you what we pay you.
Yeah.
Because you have the tenured in roofing. You've led crews according to your resume. We are paying you very well to treat this like it's your company and make it efficient, because as we grow, you grow. This is how this works. And that actually ended up costing us quite a bit. There was a scary time a couple of years ago in the wintertime that we had made some poor choices. And, anything that we made that year, we cooked through it in the wintertime. We survived, but it was like, wow, no dividends this year, right? Because we burned through everything.
Armando, I kind of wanted to get into your company a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because let's tell the people what you do, because this could be a good snippet for you. Like, what's your bread and butter? What do you guys offer? What are your services? What's your niche? How did you come to be? That kind of stuff. Give me the 30,000-foot view of like your company, what they do on a day in and day out basis.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll go into a little bit about myself as well as our company. I do have a couple partners, so I don't think, you and I are in very different demographics. We do a lot of siding. We do some windows. We do a lot of roofing. We do shingle roofing. We do metal roofing and rolled rubber roofing. And we do some commercial jobs. So it is a very different outlook. I never saw myself as competition. You guys are kind of like the titans, I would say, of the industry. You guys have perfected a lot. I admire a lot of different things about you guys. I know we've been talking about ourselves. I would say one interesting thing I've observed with you is that people respect you a lot. It seems like they care about what Austin's thinking about. I noticed in the previous podcast, they're thinking of different ways to ask, what is Austin doing moving forward, et cetera, et cetera. But when I started here, I got into the roofing industry.
Through Perfect Steel.
Through Perfect Steel. And learned a lot about roofing. And what I saw was different areas that I wanted to go into. So couple different guys. We started our own company. We wanted to really focus the fact that we're veteran owned. Over, about 66% of our company is owned by veterans.
That's cool.
Same thing, minorities. So 66% of our company is owned by minorities. And we really wanted to
that plays well in 2023, hopefully 2024.
Yeah, yeah. We really wanted to service more of that demographic. We wanted to relate more to veterans. We wanted to be able to offer veterans almost an at-cost price. There's some meaning behind that. Some customers that we met in the past that we weren't able to help just because they were on a fixed income. That's kind of what really drove me to say, like, okay, man, if only we offered these other products, that might have been somebody we could have helped. And that has been our focus. We are still a door-to-door marketing company, similar to what you guys do. Myself, I'm somebody that has always dreamed of being a business owner. I remember the day in my life that I knew I'd be a business owner. I was in the 6th grade. I was being driven to work by my mom to work for my grandfather, who was in construction. He did stucco, and he didn't have to go. And I thought, wow, what the heck? I asked my mom, I said, what's going on? Grandpa's not going to work with us. And she says, well, he owns the company. He doesn't have to. And I knew from that moment on, it's not that I didn't want to go to work, because I definitely work way more.
It's just
It's just that ability to have that control or that decision making. So I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Cool.
That being said, Allied Exteriors has been huge for us. It's the first business venture that I went into where my sole income is actually provided by the company I started, which is monumental for me. I have started and failed at a lot of things.
Gotta do it.
But you never really truly fail as long as you learn something new. It's okay to fail at things as long as you're always learning something new.
And you present it as like you failed a lot of things. You've been wholly successful in sales.
Oh, yeah.
Through many different industries.
Absolutely, yes. I've always been somebody to want to move up. I'm not somebody that stands still. People always ask, why are you never content? And that's because once you do something and you maximize your production at it, you gotta grow. Whether it's in the corporate world, I respect the corporate world. I worked for AT&T. I loved AT&T. They provided for my family. I moved up there. The only way I could have stayed with AT&T is if I moved up and was willing to move states.
Yeah.
Which at the time I wasn't. And then actually AT&T downsized. New CEO. I was like that nerd that read the corporate emails, and the writing was on the wall. They were closing all the stores. They
changed everything.
Yeah, I was like, man, the CEO, the new one, John Stanky, I don't know, I mean, that's public knowledge, was like, retail stores are an archaic way of doing business. So I was like, oh, I gotta figure something out. And what actually got me interested in this, Jimmy had kind of dropped some hints like, oh, we're trying to hire salesmen. Do you know anybody? Because I had told him, no, I've told him, piss off. Like 100% commission, I need some stability. And then another gentleman that I knew who was a manager for AT&T works for the larger company, a competing company, and he is a salesman for them, 100% commission. And I asked him what he brought home, and it was like 6 figures easily. And I was like, oh shit, maybe there is something to this. So that's when I met you, and that's when, which I don't know if you remember this or not, you told me to come business casual the first day, and I was like dressed nice, and everybody else was like jeans and a t-shirt or hoodie, and I was like, what the hell? I got bamboozled.
Yeah.
I remember because at the end of the day, we're responsible for our own shit. You were like, hey, yeah, come business casual, bring an iPad. I ran to Best Buy, dropped like $2,000 on a setup. We never even used it for a couple months. I was like, okay, but it was a blast. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from you. And so we started Allied Exteriors, but I'm always looking to grow. I'm dabbling, as we were kind of talking off camera, a little bit into solar for myself. I have an online company called Mobile Advisor. I've kind of restructured it a little bit. I'm not generating revenue with it. I'm trying. Right now we offer a service where for $30, or it's $29.99, you can submit your bill, and we guarantee to help you lower your bill by $30 or more moving forward, or your money right back, or we send it right back to you. If you're at the lowest you can possibly go, there is no saving your money. We just refund your money. But if I look at your bill, and a few of these that I've already done, $50, $75, $90, just because of some things that they're either overpaying for, move some things around.
Which is what you did in the stores.
Which is what we did in the store. But the difference of when I was in the store was...
You didn't get the override and things like that.
Well, it's not the override. It was when we were at the store, we had to grow the company.
Yeah.
Right? So when I moved money around, I didn't save you money.
Right.
I replaced it. Right? Yeah. You know, oftentimes...
You might have even saved money, but in the long run, they could have been...
Exactly. And I had a rule, and I called it the win-win-win rule. Right? The customer has to win. I have to win. I have to fill my buckets, my quota. I got a quota to meet, and the company has to grow. So everybody has to win. In this scenario, I do not need to replace that revenue with something else. I can just lower it. And I knew there was a market for it when people would come into my store and they would say things like, I fucking hate coming to these places. And I'd be like, why is that? You know, my mind, you know.
Always selling.
So always selling. So, and they knew that. They knew coming in, they're going to be adding to their bill. So I created Mobile Advisor, seeing that there was a need for it. I'm very proud of the website. No, it has not made me a millionaire by any means. I probably spent more on it than it's made me, and I'm okay with that. It is a trademark logo. It's been around now for about 3 years. Just in the past 4 or 5 months, I changed it to where we will visibly, instead of just giving free quotes, we will actually visibly look at your bill. If you don't want to submit your bill, you can describe it to us. Obviously, I can't guarantee to be able to lower it if you're describing it.
Right, but you get your money back.
But you get your money back.
But you get your money back.
But essentially, you know, it's almost free in that essence, that if I cannot save you the following month what it is you spent on it, I give you your money back.
Seems like a good deal.
So I'm doing that. Also some different industries into construction. I'm always looking to grow my portfolio. I've always done this. I was never content. I was always looking to figure out how to create more revenue streams. I was very successful in crypto trading.
So was Tyler. I know we talked off camera with Tyler and stuff like that. And he was very, very into that. Very early adopter of Bitcoin.
So
very
nothing
early
six
adopter.
Figures, but I would say, and that's awesome. He was
no,
an early
he
adopter.
Probably got into the 6 figures and stuff like that. He was and actually became I don't know if advisor would probably be the right word, where people either gave him money, took an override on that, and he was wholly successful, especially during COVID and shit like that. So,
but when we started Allied, made it a point to the company always eats first, no matter what. My partners and I went the first year with no paycheck. We took no income the first year. We put everything back in the company, and even now we take a very modest paycheck. Excuse me. That said, I made around $40,000 to $50,000 in the span of about 2 months in crypto, and that I was blessed because that helped carry me through.
Nice.
You know, I didn't have to radically change. I didn't have to refinance our house. I didn't have to radically change our lifestyle because of that, and that kind of floated me.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a cool time. I remember being on a roof, and I was like, guys, I just made $12,000 and I sold it, you know, and I got 12 grand. I just threw it in this other one. I brought it up and it had doubled overnight, and it was 24 grand. And I was like, holy shit, you know, and I was like, sell. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm always looking to grow my portfolio through.
With Allied though.
Yes.
Roofing, siding, windows.
Soffit fascia gutters.
Soffit fascia gutters.
Yes. Yep. Basically, exterior remodeling.
Yeah.
We don't want to do interior. We were roommates where our office is now. We were roommates with another company that did interior. I personally thought it was too much of a headache. You know, when it comes to permits, with roofing, it's pretty simple. Most counties, at least, they're going to ask you, are you changing the pitch? Are you changing the structure? yes or no. Sometimes you need a permit, and all this. You know, Goshen, they're really weird.
LaPorte, Indiana is kind of, they got their own little thing. St. Joe, Indiana. But
like Goshen, when you're doing a tear off, you have to stop.
Yeah.
And you have to show them that you're using ice and water. Allen County, they're definitely crazy.
Yeah.
I've had a stop work order from them.
No,
just because the permit wasn't like
displayed
logistically.
Logistically,
we just hadn't pulled the permit yet for that because we were doing another job, and then the inspector came out. Which is, it is what it is. You take it on the chin.
Luckily, we've never been stopped, but we've been accosted. I guess
Really?
is the thing, like, where they come out and go, hey, what are you doing? Like, we pulled the permit. They're like, you didn't post it. So, like, now your fine is X. I'm like, all right, cool.
Well, ours was the job had kind of got switched around.
Yeah.
And the permit hadn't been pulled yet. But because we're licensed, it's not like they get aggressive, but they just slap you with a fine.
Yeah.
Which is whatever. We hang it up like a trophy. And then, but that interior company, you have mechanical, you have electrical, plumbing. These are all, we have our builder's license. And with a builder's license, for anybody that doesn't know, we can do a commercial building up to 3 stories. We could GC that whole process. But you still have to hire electrical.
And they have to be licensed.
They have to be licensed as electrical. Yes.
Do all that stuff.
Plumbing, mechanical, your HVAC. So when you do interior remodeling and you're cutting into drywall, all of a sudden you expose something and it's like way more hands-on.
Yeah.
And essentially that company, I don't want to name their name, they ended up filing bankruptcy because they cannot manage money. When you're a business owner, and cash flow is, 50, 60, 80,000. And I know we're a lot smaller than you. I'm sure it's even greater with you guys. And that's all going, you're writing checks, $80,000 week after week, and there's big swings. If you're not somebody that's managing your money well, or you're paying yourselves or your guys before the company, or you haven't budgeted correctly, you can easily lose track of things. I think that's happened to other roofing companies where next thing you know, you're 30 grand in debt with a supplier.
Yeah.
And that's awful. I always said, like, I will never rob Peter to pay Paul because you don't have a business. If you're doing that, you don't have a business.
Dimitri always says that.
And get out of there, you know?
Like, one of the things I pride myself on is, like, when you deal with big money like we deal with, a lot of the problems stem from not managing money correctly. When you have $120,000 in payroll week to week, you have to be able to know where that money's coming from, know where that money's going, and have 3 weeks at least ahead of time to be able to plan for that, barring nothing goes crazy like COVID. And a lot of companies, they get to a certain point, and that's the biggest headache.
Sure.
Is that cool? People sold a bunch, but now you got to pay them on that. People, you bought a bunch of product, you haven't installed it yet, and they get in the situation where it's like a little behind. They're 1 day behind, then they're 3 days behind, then they're 5 days behind. They just don't catch up. Then we have 5 rain days in a row. It's bad. When you get to a certain point and you've done it right, then it becomes less of a headache. You'll figure that out in the future. Is like, if you start and you manage it the same way as you did when you were small, then it won't matter when you get big.
Yeah.
If you change, and the wife wants a new car, and you just want a bigger house, and you want to do all that stuff, and you want everyone to drive, brand new cars, and you want to upgrade the offices and things like that. It becomes hard. If you stay the same, then it really doesn't matter what the payroll is, because it always goes back around the same, loop happens. And so we've been really good about, and my people understand that from a top level down, that the money isn't going to me. The money's in the company. The money goes to this factory. The money goes to these people. The money goes into there to build a more solid foundation for the future. Because what you run into, what I run into the most, is that when we walk into a house, it's, how do we know you're going to be around? You've only been around for less than 2 years? 2 years.
We're going on 3 now.
We're going on 3, yeah. So less than 3 years. So like, you're like, well, I mean, what makes you think you're going to be around for 3 years?
Sure.
I've only been around for 6 years. Well, what makes you think you're going to be around for
companies that have been here for 15 go out of business.
Exactly. It happens all the time. One divorce sets you up for complete failure.
Yes.
And, then they're not returning phone calls, your roof's leaking, things like that. If you set up a company that has a really solid foundation, the more infrastructure you can build, the less likely it is based on the one person in charge.
Sure.
And so, like, when we sell against a lot of Amish and we sell a lot against, a chuck and a truck, things like that, we have the infrastructure built up and all those things taken care of in order to, have surplus to take care of our customers.
Sure.
And it's always been a really great tool to be in a house and say that every year it'll get easier as you go. I remember trying to convince people 6 months in, I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to be around forever and we'll take care of you. And they're like, really?
Yeah.
Like, how do you know? Like, yeah. I'm like, we're definitely going to do it.
So it is a concern that homeowners have. I've been asked it when I was working with you. So for me, it's a little different because one way I address it is I say, listen, we have our warranty. We're not in business to go out of business. We have cash flow. We're positive. We already pay taxes. But more importantly, there is a manufacturer that will back a warranty. So worst case scenario, like our shingles, we use Owens Corning's, we're a preferred contractor. They're not going out of business anytime soon. They're the largest American-made shingle manufacturer. They invented fiberglass. So I kind of reference that. We use Ramco. I don't lie, right? I don't ever say that we manufacture. Never say that. I say it is manufactured locally, and I talk about it is Ramco metal.
Which is a great company.
It is a great company. They're not going anywhere. They have 3 locations now.
3 locations. They're doing great. They've historically done very well.
Very well. And I've had people ask me, well, can we purchase the metal from them? And I said, absolutely, you can. Now, we have contracted rates. So if you do that, it's going to cost you more money, and that's fine. But, I'm just letting you know this is the scenario. This is where the metal's coming from. We talk about where they buy their coils from, things like that. But that has helped me with that concern. With you, it's a little bit different only because you are the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. On the other side of it, your company does so much volume, and you can kind of flex that, this is the size of your company. You're very healthy. And if you're bonded, you have money pulled aside anyways. So you're going to be taken care of, whether it's an insurance claim or not. Right? But that's always been a concern. Here's a question for you. When you were young,
we're still young.
Right?
We're still young, Armando.
And you were just starting this company out, and you sold your first job. Did it ever come up with, it
was a Bobit Court, by the way.
Well, my question is, did they ask you about how long have you been around? How are things going?
So this is crazy. It's like, he found me at the home show. He came by, and I was like, I didn't have the face immediately, but as soon as he's like, I'm your first job, and I'm like, yeah. So it was a big deal. Obviously, I had begged, borrowed, and stealed to try to get somebody to loan me one job for free.
Sure.
So I went to, I don't know how you started out with Ramco, but I didn't have any money.
No,
so
we paid for everything.
I didn't have anything.
Yeah.
I didn't have any money.
We had no credit.
I had no money. I was like, give me 2 jobs for free.
Yeah.
I'll turn those around. I'll pay you. And then as we get bigger, we'll do X.
We're not too far off. I mean, based on your story of your father giving you the 25, I actually was blessed. My parents, I didn't put up a title, but I promised them a 50% return. Promised, hey, we don't even need it because one of our partners, who's no longer a partner, was guaranteeing us cash, and that cash never came. But that was a really unique scenario. Yeah. But my parents, I said, whatever you want to put in, you're welcome to. You don't have to, but we'll give you a 50% return, which is astronomical for any investment. And of course, I'm the kid, so if the company fails, I'm going to work that off the rest of my life.
Sure.
But that being said, my parents gave us $20,000. And that $20,000 floated us on top of us not paying anybody. I'm selling, not taking commission. People are door knocking, not taking pay. Projects are going on. We're paying for material out of our bankroll.
Yeah.
Yes, we are paying the crews. They got to make their money up front too. And it got to a point where we did a massive job. It was our biggest job to date. I think it ended up being $75,000. All said and done. Material alone was like $35,000.
Yeah.
So that one we took out a loan for.
Okay.
But a business loan.
I would have never done it. I would have walked away from it.
We did
so
a business
fast.
loan. But that was back to the big swings,
Yeah.
And there were times that you were like, and when we were young, there was like 80,000 in the bank account, and then there was like 4,000. And you're like,
oh, dude.
You hold your breath.
It gets
like,
weird.
Oh, here it comes.
Weird.
But then it goes right back up. So,
yeah.
weird. And that's a little bit of the bookkeeping side of things.
Yeah. No, our first job, we had two 2 jobs on loan. I had convinced Metal Exteriors, who and then that been a very huge supporter of me until I got my manufacturing stuff. So they believed in me enough to give me 2 jobs on loan.
Yeah.
And we told the customer everything. Like, dude, you're gonna be number one. We've been doing this. We're just gonna do this by ourselves. You'll save a ton of money by not paying big box people and do that kind of stuff. Like, it's gonna be good for you. And it was really good for him. Him and his wife. And he actually looked us all up on my case to try to like make sure that we were all legit. He went through, did background checks on all the 3 people that were involved at the time. And then
almost every supplier does that.
And no, not the supplier. The customer did this.
Oh, the customer.
The customer was pulling background checks.
Okay, never mind. All right,
dude, it was weird, bro.
Oh, and this is Bobix.
This is Bobit Court. Yeah, this is over there in the 3.5, I think, or the 1.5, a Maple Crest area.
Okay.
And he was like, I don't like that this guy has this, blah, blah. I mean, he went through it.
You had some characters.
And then I was like, we got to be professional as possible. But I told everybody the job was going on, our first job. And so, like, every salesperson showed up. Every door knocker showed up. Everybody showed up. And I'm like, guys, we got to be cool. Like, it's going to go fine. Luckily, it was an easy ranch, 1 gable with a front porch. It was like, it went really well. At that point, we hand unloaded all the metal and things like that.
So they didn't have a dump trailer then, huh?
No.
Not a trailer, but
they had a roll-off thing, like a...
Yeah.
So like if it was only 2 jobs, they could roll it off. They could drive it. They could dump it and like drive away.
That's what Ramco does.
Okay. But if there was 5 jobs on it, you had to hand unload every job until it got down to the last 2 jobs, and then they could...
Maybe that's logistically because they're from Ohio.
Yeah, they were coming 2.5 hours away most of the time.
So yeah, they were probably loading as much as they could.
Service us. So
interesting.
Yeah, so we had to do all that, and it went well. And that dude's super happy. Still no problem. Still a big supporter. He still comments on our Facebook page and things like that. He's been a huge supporter of us. Always looks me up. But yeah, that's how we started. I don't even remember the second job we've done. I don't even remember it, but I remember. I think Brian was his name, and on Bobit Court, and like. Yeah, and then so, obviously 6 to 8 weeks later, I paid back my father,
So our first job, I was a little rusty, right? Because it had been some time. I had left here, and I was putting things in motion, making sure all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed before we started selling. Because I'm not, like you said earlier, scared money doesn't make money. I respect that to a degree.
Yeah.
I make calculated risks, right? Yeah. I don't play the lottery. So I made sure we were set up. I go out. I'm actually with one of my partners. We're out on the deck. It's muggy. They're asking, how, your past jobs. And I'm like, well, we are a new company. Because that's what I thought to myself. Dude. God, nobody wants to hear they're your first customer.
Yeah.
So you were lucky enough that they're like, we're going to be your first customer.
We went into it like that. We had no financing at the time.
Yeah. So we had financing off the rip.
Financing at all.
We had financing off the rip. Terrible company. That was one thing. Dimitri backed them. I was a little pissed about that because they sucked. But we were blessed because we happened to meet the people we are now. They were one of the many people they financed through. And I was like, I called them and I was like, what do we got to do to get set up with you guys? And they're like, well, we see you're through. It's Enhancify is who it was, where we're with. And they're like, well, so you're one of their vendors or whatever. And I was like, well, can't we just go through you directly? And they're like, yeah, we'll get you set up directly. Most companies want you to be in business for 3 to 5 years.
I want to see that.
So since we're brand new, fortunately, one of our partners at that time owned an excavating LLC that had been around long enough. So
my goodness. Well, at least he was useful in that aspect.
We wouldn't be in business today without it.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yes. So we had financing right off the bat because of that. But anyways, our first one we sold, it was our first lead we ran. Me and one of my partners sold it. We went immediately back to my parents' house. We're just doing shots of whiskey and tequila. Canceled the next day. Not the next day, but it was the financing because at that time Enhancify was
your first deal canceled?
Yeah, because Enhancify was a terrible company. You run their information. It's a soft credit check. They were going to move forward to sign the paperwork. They had access to their portal through whatever bank. And I shit you not, I was really pissed about this because I ran my soft credit check. I was bombarded, cold called by bankers left and right. And I asked them, I said, my customers, we sold the job and they're moving forward, but they're getting bombarded. They're like, well, that's just the nature of the beast. Man, that is the wrong thing to fucking tell me. As a business owner, the nature of the beast, I was like, all right, we're out. We ended up going with PowerPay. I'm very happy we went with PowerPay. We now use, they're awesome. They're awesome, and they're a decent-sized company.
Are they publicly traded, do you know? Most of those people are.
They aren't. I almost want to say they are.
Yeah, Green Sky, Aqua, Foundation. They're all publicly traded companies.
So I use Foundation now as well because for my subpar lender, I do Foundation and PowerPay is everybody I run through. But I think Green Sky is a Goldman Sachs company actually.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing. It really was. It's a simple 1-page application, soft credit check.
They didn't care that you were in business.
My customers love it. My salesmen love it, but that was an interesting one when that first, when they're your first customer, it's kind of like, we actually had to do insurance work to float us in the beginning, just because everything was so new.
No, we didn't have that. We literally sold jobs with financing, with no finance company.
Yeah, there was times
we had 6 jobs. As soon as we got a finance company to take us, we sent them all 6 jobs.
Wow, I will say. With us, we had to reinvent the wheel quite a bit because I knew sales. I didn't have any connections with subs, or any contractors whatsoever.
They find you.
There was a lot. They do now.
They find you.
But we have relationships with certain people we use. We have in-house crews now. So it's been an ever-growing and ever-learning, and I'm very blessed and fortunate. We had our Christmas party. It was great to talk to everybody. Everybody had a good time. But for me personally, I always keep a foot in this door. And at the same time, I will always grow a portfolio. That will always be me and who I am.
And you don't think it takes away from what you're doing? Your business partners, when they see you doing other stuff, when you could be spending time at the business?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I do not sacrifice time away from Allied Exteriors to do other things. And then if it ever got to a point, and this is the understanding, that my time now needs to be dedicated somewhere else due to whatever reason, maybe new business venture, whatever, mobile advisor, then I will still manage books. I will still manage my teams. I'll still be a leader. But yes, my pay would significantly decrease. I know we kind of talked about this off camera, but we structured it in such a way that if one person decided tomorrow they're not working, there's no legal, it's a 2/3 vote kind of thing. Like if you're not going to bring value to the table, and I tell my guys this because this is my partners. They're awesome guys. We've developed a friendship, but I made it very clear that this is how I feed my family. So if they hurt the company, I can't be partners with them anymore. And God forbid I hurt the company, don't be partners with me anymore. Kick me out. We could have very well structured the system where I'm voted off the island, and that's okay, because the health of the company comes first. But my leadership's very different. I have experience in leadership. I got the military background.
Yeah,
I was store manager. I think a lot of times people say that I'm a good salesman. I don't think I'm a good salesman. I'm a good leader. And realistically, sales is just the art of communication, being able to speak and talk with conviction and to get your message across. One time, you asked me, I think I was at your house, this is Jim's birthday or something, and you asked me about one of the reps who was a bottom performer, and you asked me if I thought he was going to make it, and my response was, it depends on the training he gets, because at the end of the day, this can be taught, you can mentor, you can coach. Now, if you run into somebody who refuses to be mentored, fine.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some people have to fire themselves. But you have to be a leader first. You can't just assume because somebody's not performing that it is on them. I have one of my top producers now, and he's done amazing things for our company. And he has hard charged different things. He's an older gentleman. He comes from being a VP of a factory, and now he's in sales. Made nothing the first 2 months he worked with us. Nothing. But it took consistent coaching and mentorship and seeing him through the dark times, not giving him money, right? I didn't give him money. It took him that, and he was like, I really love you guys. I love your message. I love this company because I believe in it. That said, he is now one of my best leaders. He's a great guy. He does all of our table events. He totally took ownership of that. He goes out to First Fridays. Any event he can get a table into, he gets into it. He self-generates his own leads.
That's awesome.
He all the time, oftentimes we talk about the manager phone call, a turnover call, whatever you want to call it. Oftentimes he calls me just to let me know, hey, we're moving forward. Is there anything you need from me? And I was like, no.
Why are you calling me?
Yeah, you're doing an outstanding job. People love him because he speaks. One thing that I'm somebody is if I say it, it has to be true, right? If I say it and the company's lying to me and now I'm lying to the customer, I get angry, I get irate. Because, when I was at TT and the promotions weren't sticking, I made sure I fought for the customer. I would call AT&T. I'd call our resources, back office people, and I'd say, hey, this person is owed this credit, and here's why. Because you got to take care of people. You got to, your word is your bond, man. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
I would imagine if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you're going to do it.
You get found out eventually if you don't speak the truth.
100%.
Not time. And there's enough in our industry, and we do a really good job, and I think you guys do too, of doing the jobs that you say you're going to do and doing them how you say you're going to do them. Mm-hmm. And we have to change that game every day.
Absolutely.
They walk in, they're like, this guy's going to try to sell me. This guy's going to take advantage. Everything you think that conventional sales rep would do, and we got to switch that to we're here to help. You don't need to buy from us, but you need to know all the information.
Absolutely.
And so we do a really good job of that, and it's been healthy for us. There's other ways to do business, of course, even more profitable ways to do business. But if you do that, it seems like the consistent growth is way more important than doing the big numbers early on and not be able to help the customers in the way that you said you were going to help.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like there's any one major thing you could contribute the growth of your company to? Anything specific?
Like right now?
Over the course of your lifespan.
So I bring it back to, and this is bad for company stuff, but it's okay for me. It's not about the money for me. It's not. I don't need more money. I don't really want any more money, and that sounds terrible for a company that someone's running a company.
Sure.
But I want to have such a strong foundation that it doesn't put anybody else in jeopardy, and the customers come first. So it's the part that I contribute is that I look at it on a humanistic level where you might take doing, 100 jobs a year maybe, and you might take L's on 5 jobs. Okay, big L's, not just oh shit, we were going to make 1,000, now we lost $500. We'll look at jobs and we'll lose $20,000-$30,000 on jobs right now because of wrong place, wrong time. Things happen. People died. People got sick. People got cancer. People,
put it on the wrong house.
Put it on the wrong house. That's never happened. We delivered to the wrong house. It's almost happened before.
We measured the wrong house.
We definitely measured the wrong house. That happens. We've delivered to the wrong house.
Yeah,
measured the right house.
We've done that.
Delivered the wrong house.
And our guys had to carry it from the neighbor's house.
Yep. No, we had to carry it from a different city.
Oh,
different city. Because you get into Red Key or those people, and the cities are so zoned so weirdly that their driver's license say something, but their mailing address is something different.
Yep.
And so there'll be different stuff. I will take giant L's to do right, and that's only apparent when you look at BBB, Google, Facebook. It's not that I pay them to not do bad reviews, is that I will take giant fat L's to the tune of about $150,000 to $200,000 a year on most years.
Yeah.
Straight loss.
So
not profit, straight loss.
Yeah.
In order to do right by the homeowner.
I would say genuinely that is probably a characteristic trait that I picked up from you in the construction industry. Not saying you were this know-all guy, but I remember being in the same facility and just having a one-off conversation with you, and you're like, my business model, especially in the first few decades that we're open, is going to be customer first. I don't care if we have to lose money. We're going to do right by them. Yeah. We're going to go out as many times as needed. And I've tried to replicate that as much as
it
I
hurts.
can.
It hurts.
It does.
It hurts.
But to be consistent, I have, in my network of people, I know roofers that I remember did a roof for my parents and destroyed the gutters. And the response was, well, the reason why the gutters are destroyed is because they weren't installed properly. And immediately was like trying to get out of replacing these gutters. And that is the culture. That's the norm.
That's the norm.
I had a guy put a hole in fascia from the equipter, from the roof buggy.
We hit a lot of houses with the equipter. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
We've only done it one time, but
it happens.
The point is, when I called him out on it, he said, well, no, it was already there. It was already there. And I'm like, dude, I've been here for 3-4 days now. I know it wasn't already there, right? This was a big job in the wintertime. It took a while. But I was like, I know it wasn't there. And I had to call him out. I go, man, come on. Now with us, I don't care. No questions asked. If one of my guys destroys the gutters, guess what they're getting? New gutters. No questions asked, period. Yeah. This happened to me here recently. I had to have accountability because that's very important to me. But because it happened twice now. Now that's a pattern to me. But homeowner was under the impression they're getting guards.
Oh, my God.
It's nowhere on the paperwork that they're getting guards.
Oh, my God. What a headache it's
been. No questions asked. I mean, one of my managers calls me and he says, Armando, this is a situation. They're a little upset. I have them on the other line. I said, listen, I want you to go back. I think the customer's name was Lisa. I said, you tell Lisa I spoke to Armando. He apologizes for the misunderstanding. We'll be out the following week to get those gutter guards installed for them. No questions asked. And he was like, calls me back. Okay, we're good now. And I was like, I bet you are good. They're going to get those guards. But now I have to have a conversation with my guy saying, hey, because that was twice with the same two guys. And I said, okay, something's happening, right? Something's being brought up. So if you discuss gutter guards with them, it needs to be very clear that it is either in the pricing or it's not.
Yeah.
Now you don't get to just assume
Armando,
anything.
We have a separate sheet in our contract. You remember our contracts. You wrote a lot of them.
Yeah.
We have a separate sheet now that goes along all the pain points, and if it was signed in, I'd bring it up right now.
Sure.
But the pain points being, if we bring out material and we take some back that we don't use, we're not reimbursing you. We didn't overcharge you. We just order one size of every single panel longer, so that way if we break one panel, we don't have to make a 4-hour round trip to go replace a panel. So that's not the gutter guards. Like, if it's not explicitly said in the contract, in this verbiage, you are not getting. 2, if you have current existing gutter guards, we're not replacing them. Mm-hmm. We'll try. Our damnedest we'll try.
Sure.
But we are not doing that shit.
Sure.
And we have 15 pain points of over the years, you eventually you get to these places where you're when you do so much volume, it just keeps happening. Happening. I probably put 50 G's of gutter guards or gutters on houses at least last year.
So
and it's, I had to create a contract to solve it. And even now, in the past 3 weeks, we've had it again.
Absolutely.
And it's not, and at least now I can go on the homeowner and go, listen, I have a separate sheet in here that you had to separately sign. It's not with a whole bunch of other stuff and you signed a 3-page contract with fine print. There's 15 points on a 1-page document with a signature at the bottom that we go through every single house to make sure that communication is key.
Yeah.
So I can't, and they're like, I understand that.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's getting better, but it's that's a huge pain.
Absolutely.
Point for
Same
me.
Thing. There was a roofing company. I don't know their name. It was down in Indy. My brother lives in Fishers. He went through the insurance route. They obviously was willing to help him file the claim. Then they got him on the whole well, you have to go with us if we get this approved, which is fair. But my brother insisted. He saw the sagging OSB boards. And my brother used to roof with the Amish. Now he's a big-time factory guy and upper management. But he was like, I want the OSB replaced. I want everything redecked. I'll pay the extra amount. I know insurance isn't going to cover it. I will pay the extra amount. Well, we'll go. If we feel like it needs replaced, we'll replace it. And my brother's like, no, I want this done. Well, guess what? He goes to work. They come out. Bing, bang, boom. Job is done. He comes home from work. No replaced decking. He could still see the sags on the new roof. And he's irate, and he calls me, and he's like, what can I do? And I said, well, bro, did you sign anything that says they will? No, it was more of a verbal understanding. And I said, that's the problem, man. And you're a number to them. They'll just burn and turn. They don't care. And they were a large company. And I looked at their paperwork. It was professionally done. I admired some of it. But I was like, dude, you gotta put it in writing. Otherwise, you can't hold them accountable.
Everything in writing.
We do struggle with getting reviews. People love us. Oh, my gosh, you did such a great job. You did a great job. Could you please leave us a review? Sometimes I even try to help them. Like, let me show you where to go. And then it's like, sign into Google. And I'm like, do you know your Google password? They're like, no. And I'm like, God.
Yeah.
It's very hard, But I am proud of what we do. I'm proud of where we're at. We've had some bad reviews. Usually they're from people, we didn't give somebody a job. They hit us for poor management. They were never a customer. We are a canvassing company.
I get most of mine.
We get them from canvassing.
They bothered me. They woke up my kids. Yeah. They bothered us during COVID. They came to my door.
We had one where I was really proud of this one, actually. So due to a miscommunication, we no-showed them. They scheduled an appointment with us, confirmed it. The scheduler came back from vacation and missed it somewhere. It didn't get transferred over. And what we really like is our canvassing software we use speaks to our CRM, and it just sends it over. They don't have to be built into the CRM. And so for whatever reason, they didn't get moved over. We didn't know it existed. They got missed. They take to Facebook. This company stood us up. We thought because they were veteran owned, et cetera, et cetera. So immediately I look up the name. I figure out I do some investigating. I figure out what goes on. Then I give them a phone call. Then I say, Mr. Customer, I'm the owner. This is the situation. I take full responsibility, 100%. We did do this incorrectly. It was human error. I'm very sorry. It's no excuse. Obviously, you probably want nothing to do with this. But in the event I could help you in any way, if you would like a quote, I personally will be the one to come out, nobody else. Well, let me talk to the missus. All right, you go ahead and come out, but don't try any funny business. I was in construction. I get it. And I was like, okay, absolutely. You got my word. I show up. I present everything. I talk about the material. I do the demonstration. I give them my estimate. And throughout the presentation, I explained who we are. The wife was nodding a lot. And she was like, I really like that. I really like that you pay your guys well. I really like that you guys do this. I really like who you guys help out. And I had a great relationship with them. So much so that she was like, yes, I want to move forward with you guys. What do we need to do? And the husband stopped her and said, well, wait a minute. Can we do any better on this price? And then she interrupted and she goes, no, they're a good company. That's a fair price. That's what we're going to pay. And it really made me feel good inside because cool. I was like, okay, like she understood that this is where we were at with things. She understood it was a fair price. It wasn't the cheapest price. She understands she liked us as a company. And it went from her leaving us a bad review on Facebook into that. And of course, they took down the bad review. They were happy with us. They loved and coincidentally, it was the job where we delivered to the neighbor who was like an acre away that had to be carried over.
Oh man, when jobs go bad, they keep getting worse, bro. I mean, dude, it keeps getting worse.
We've definitely had some where homeowners were upset that we didn't video record the roof being done. She wanted it for insurance. Or something? No, we told her she asked us for photos. We said we'd do photos for insurance. We'd done insurance before. Okay, we weren't doing that insurance. We just said we'd get it to her. We got her the photos, and then she was like, I'm disappointed. I thought you guys were going to do a video. And I was like, ma'am, nowhere did you ask for it? We would have. We were up there.
Yeah.
But I said, let me reassure you that insurance doesn't need video. She asked her agent. They said, no, they didn't need videos. They took the photos. We've had nails in the tires. No questions asked.
Yeah.
I write a reimbursement check for that. But no, I mean,
we've had some doozies.
I'm very happy with who we are. I'm very happy with Allied Exteriors. As an individual, I always want to grow. I like to see my partners grow. I'm sure they have other ventures they want to go into. Some people, they're happy with all their eggs in one basket. Other people are like, okay, this is one of many things I want to do. But the health of the business has to be number one priority. Mm-hmm. Without it, then it's really nothing. It's fugazi, right? I mean, you got something that's momentarily cool, but then it bleeds out when you're no longer there. I have to put leaders in place as managers. If I don't do that, then I'm wearing 30 hats. And in the beginning, I wore 30 hats. All of us did. But as time progresses and you grow and revenue comes in, you get to bring people on and grow as a company, and you bring people on that love you. Yeah. So if they don't love you, they won't respect what they're doing.
Yeah.
So my question to you then, as a business owner, you have brought on your inner circle of people, right? Some people had experience in this industry already. Some people just had experience in sales, whatever it is. You know, I like everybody here. I think everybody's great. But do you ever feel like because it's your friends that you put in these leadership roles, has that ever hurt you as far as leading the teams? Have you sometimes not looked a certain way because it's like, well, that's my best friend? I don't really ask this because like my parents are always saying, why aren't you hiring more family?
Yeah.
I said, and I got a huge family.
You got a huge family.
And I said, well, what the hell?
Talented family.
What the hell do they know about roofing? Or what do the hell know about this?
Like, yeah, but
you know
they
what I mean?
always have a thing. I think that no is the short answer.
Sure.
And I can only take that answer so far. We're starting a new thing this next coming year with more accountability and more things that are micromanaged and systems processes that are put in place to not have the relaxed atmosphere that we have currently and things like that, to kind of push our people because they want more, just like you said. My people don't want to do outside ventures. They want this to grow. They want this. They want. Now they might want a lake cottage. Now they want me to upgrade their car. They don't want the status quo. They're getting fed and they like where it's going, but they would like to take it to the next level. The part when I told them that, I was like, listen, we're fine. Everyone's happy. We have a relaxed atmosphere. Everyone gets 3 weeks plus vacation a year. Everyone gets paid every week of every year, no matter if they're here or not.
Above average
pay, I would assume. I don't know what everyone else is doing, but I told them, I go, if you guys do this, you guys are putting yourself on a board.
Yeah.
You know, like on the chopping block. And if you don't,
let me put one thing into perspective for you. And I don't know your finances, but I did talk to a business advisor, and we talked about where our different people were paid. And again, in the past, when we made a mistake where we threw a lot of money at somebody,
it's always the worst.
We told him, we said, okay, this individual is a manager. He makes $80,000 a year salary. And that person told me in his customer book, he had about 13 different construction companies, some roofing, some builders, whatever. And that is the highest paid individual who was not an owner he had ever heard of. He was like, that is crazy. You pay them that much. So I don't know how much you pay your guys, but if that lets you know as far as above average or not, what you're paying your team.
Yeah, we definitely pay above average then. But the fact is, like, you guys are putting yourself on a board. If you can't take us to that next level, I can't hold the company back. Now, what I will do, because y'all are my best friends.
Sure.
I'll find another place in this company for you doing a lesser thing.
Sure.
You know, where you can have the lifestyle that you've been afforded up to this point. I never do anything. If you put the sweat equity into this company, the one thing with me, you can suck at some point and you'll never get left behind.
Sure.
Even to my own detriment. I will lessen that amount by finding if you are the, I don't know, manager of something, we'll make you a canvasser, we'll make you a salesperson, we'll make you a shop guy, we'll make you a rep, we'll do something to afford you the same lifestyle, but we can't put all the eggs in that basket anymore. I won't leave you behind, but you may not be the dude for the future. Luckily, all the people that I surround myself are pretty much winners. And that sounds so gay to say, but you know, luckily that they I don't know if it's embedded in them, or it's because they are my friends and they do believe or have the the venture. They have everything best at heart. They, I think, overperform than the regular people.
Sure.
Like, it's not, and I say it again, the managers aren't the managers because they're my friends. They're the managers because they put more in than the next person.
Okay.
I'm willing to replace them all.
Okay.
With the next best person.
Cool.
And they would be even fine with it because it could take them to the next place. Like, when I hired a COO from outside, it made some waves. I mean, like, I've only really hired inside.
Sure.
You know, like, you've seen a lot of the people that you worked with here become managers and things like that.
Respectfully, though, a COO is a well-educated individual. I mean, somebody would need to have those credentials to get hurt that they're not
2 college degrees, outside business expertise, and a different culture bringing in that I currently have a very amazing culture, but it definitely lacks legs in certain areas. And so that's what that person does.
Sure.
I could only take this company to a $10 million a year company and run it well. And it has run well. And it's great. And we're healthy. And we paid all our bills. And it's growing every year and things like that. But I can only take it this far. Now, to go even further, to help more people, to get the name, the recognition, things like that, I have to do the small things, the everyday things, the podcast, the fill-in for people who don't show up in the factory, or fill-in for people who don't show up with windows or gutters or I don't get on roofs. I'm saying that. I manage the roofing crew, maybe. But, like, I have to fill in those places. The other person is growing it as a whole 30 to 50% a year.
He's taking that hat from you.
He's taking that hat from me completely and holding those people accountable and making it more healthy for the customers and making it more healthy for the employees. And that's what they really wanted. I sat them down at the end or the middle of this year. I was like, what do you guys want to see happen?
Sure.
I go, I'm cool. Again, I don't need anything. I don't want anything.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to see something, like, let me know. And they're like, we want more offices. We want more. We want bigger. We want more, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. And so you guys are basically asking me for, A, raises.
Yeah.
And 2, to have more responsibilities, which is fine. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. But it can't be done with me. And so I hired a COO,
sure.
And and he comes with his own expenses and things like that. But
is he full time then?
Yeah, he's full time. He was going to be a fractional CFO, like currently in the podcast with Tyler was.
Yeah.
And then we recognized that he wanted to put all his eggs in this basket instead of trying to do
when he was
30
talking
different companies. Yeah.
In the podcast, I was thinking more like forensic accounting, like that movie, The Accountant.
He does a lot of that.
Yeah.
And he was very successful.
Ben Affleck.
Taking tooling companies.
Sure.
And running data for them. He's a very data-oriented guy. When people go, I want to invest in a $250,000 welding machine, which you come from, and stuff like that. What is the payoff? How many years? What will this do? Tiring out, what's the upkeep, and blah, blah, blah. He could run all those numbers. For someone like me and you, we might not think that way at all.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I personally don't. I'm like, it could probably be good for us. Let's do it. We have the money.
Yeah.
That's the way I think of it.
Yeah.
He will go, the payoff is this many years. It will break this many times. You'll have this much in upkeep, and it will make your company grow by X.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, that's cool. Like, I wouldn't have done it that way, but that's the way his mind thinks.
Sure.
And that's been a welcome addition. I think a lot of the managers are really excited about.
That's good. If I would say that, and this goes for every aspect of leadership, when working with a team, if they love the company and they want growth in the company, the numbers never lie. Like back to like my guys, it's like the company eats first, right?
Yeah.
We went and bought $20,000 dump trailer, whatever it is.
Ooh, could
we have continued to rent one and paid ourselves dividends? Yeah, we could have. But the company eats first always, right? We have things, now we have a building close to downtown. That's a new thing. That's kind of cool. It needs renovated, but still we got a building that we're in. But at the end of the day, the numbers never lie. If they are individuals who do care about the company and want the company to grow first prior to themselves, then you're golden. You have a Goldilocks team. However, with accountability, and I got to be held accountable. And I don't care if I'm at the top or at the bottom, I got to be held accountable. I tell my partners all the time, hold me accountable, right? Call me out on something that you feel like I'm dropping the ball on.
But someone who says that really drops the ball. That's what happens.
Say that again.
People that call themselves out and be like, hold me accountable, aren't the people that need to be held accountable.
Fair. I mean, there are times that they're like, hey, X, Y, and Z. I love it when I'm always being told that I'm too hard on other teams that I don't manage. And then like that manager.
You keep saying that. When you say teams, it's not a sectional part of the company. You're talking about like marketing versus sales, or
yes.
What are you talking like?
Marketing, sales, and production.
Okay.
So like I might be hard on
you say teams, I'm like, do you have like a separate sales team?
No, I did at one time.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, the production team, I talked to the production manager. I'm like, hey, you guys, but I'm really good at talking to people. And none of my partners argue that that's a trait that I have. Everybody knows that there's a fire to put out. Go talk to Armando. That being said, if my guys make a mistake, man, they love coming to me. Hey, your guys did this. We need to do better, right? And I'm like, I get it, you know. But
what part of the company do you directly manage then? What would you say is like?
Directly,
I know that you have a let's call. Can we say names, or you don't want to say names?
I prefer not to.
Let's say the non-minority owner. He does mostly the production. Is that right?
Yes.
And the other minority owner,
marketing.
He does marketing.
Yes.
And so then that would be mostly you on sales then?
So I do sales and I do like the office stuff. So now we have a confirmer, that confirming, and then the bookkeeping. I do a lot of the bookkeeping. I talk to the CPA. I talk to the attorney, the website. I work with the guy that does our
all
website.
back of the house
back house
things.
Stuff / sales, but you know, and I tell this to everybody, you be as involved or as little as involved as much as possible, which I noticed the production guy, he's in my sales meeting. He wants to know what's going on. The marketing guy, he is at times, and other times he's like, that doesn't interest me. That's fair. But you believe that I'm always talking to him about his canvassers. Or the production guy, I'm always talking, because at the end of the day, this is how I feed my family.
You got a foot in the door.
And I need to know what's happening with my company, and it's their company too, and they want to know, and they're involved as much as they want to.
Let me ask you this question. From sectional meetings to whole in-house meetings and things like that, what's your meeting schedule look like week to week and month to month? Are you meeting whole company, whole managers, whole sales meetings, whole marketing meetings? Like, what is it? Because I found that I don't do as much meetings as the next guy.
Sure.
I may do one marketing meeting a week, and then I might do a sales meeting every 3 weeks.
But
I do a monthly manager meeting.
Are you describing what you personally are attending? Are you telling me that your marketing guy is not having meetings more than once a month?
No, I'm talking about the marketing guy's having a meeting every week with his
probably
group.
More than once a week.
Once a week. Well, we have 2 offices, so you could count that as one, but we could get it done one day. And then the sales group maybe every 3 weeks. And then the manager group every month.
When I was a part of your team, we had a sales meeting every week.
Yeah.
Is that no longer a thing?
It's not an every week sort of deal.
Okay.
Because we do a lot based on the customers. Like if they have a lot of meetings on Monday and we had a sales meeting that was going to be tentatively scheduled,
sure,
we will subjugate that. We'll go in later in the day, or we'll keep pushing that until we get an open day.
I have my guys meet every week.
Every week.
But it's not, this is another thing I learned culturally from this industry. When I would bring guys in to talk to them, immediately they braced. I mean, they were defensive. Even my confirmer, right away, she was defensive. Right? What's going on? I had one guy, well, if you're just going to fire me, do it right now over the text. I go, what are you talking about? I'm not firing anybody. I want to talk about how the week went. So when I have my sales meeting, those are coachable times. I talk about objections. What objections did we hear out there? How are we overcoming them? Because, I got a team of 7, soon to be 6, because the guy's leaving for flight school. But I say, okay, what did you hear? Well, I'm hearing a lot of this. And I got a guy across the table that says, this is what I like to do. And I got the whiteboard, and I'm always visual with my drawings. And I break things down for them because I feel like we're always learning. And I'm learning from my guys, and they're learning from me. And one thing that I learned as a sales manager that I didn't like is when my superiors at AT&T or wherever would say, well, if you would have done this, this would have happened. So what I like to do is say, okay, you failed right there what you did. The angle that you kind of went in this direction. Really, that wasn't a good fit for that customer. Maybe we should have gone this direction. That said, because this was really their concern, and you didn't address this concern, you went down this road. I'm not saying you would have got the project. I'm not saying they would have moved forward with you. But what I am saying is that it may have changed the outcome. You don't know. So I think by doing that, it hits differently than saying, well, next time you need to do this, because if you do this, you would have won. And that's not the game we play.
No.
And I always talk about things with my guys, and I say, you have to become friends with people. And if you fail to become friends, then you're just a cashier, and you're just hoping that everyone's just ready to do a project right then and there. And that's not fair. That's not fair to the homeowner. And they got to feel like whatever you say about our company is true. I remember doing a window job that I talked to the homeowner. I think I had to offer him a promotion, which was like a 1 year, no interest, no payments. But that being said, they moved forward with us after meeting with me, and I didn't even have a window sample with me. And I remember the rep that was shadowing me was like,
thought they could do that.
Flabbergasted. It was blown away by the whole thing. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, they know where we are. They trust me. That's why they liked us. And they liked our price. You know, our price on windows are very fair and comparable. But no, we meet once a week there. The production guy, he's always on job sites with them. All of our stuff, like our shingles, leftover shingles, our trailers, gutter machine, that's all out of the building. So when they meet at the building. They rarely come into our office. In the marketing side of the house, at least once to twice a week, you know.
Really?
I mean, they fill up together at the gas station.
Right.
We're going to start something new going into next year when it comes to fuel. That we're seeing how different ways to expense fuel. That's
we always think about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I haven't found a good way because everyone's like, you can get a gas tank delivered here and you guys can fill up. You guys can get this certain credit card. You guys can do.
Right. Well, what I've learned is that with our CPA, you can only expense fuel as if they're recording their miles and they report back to you the miles and then you pay them on their paycheck. If you just pay for it and then it's not being really recorded, you don't own that vehicle. You can't expense that
Correct.
fuel. Another thing I like to do, we're a younger company. I don't have a fleet. We don't have zero company-owned vehicles.
You don't have 27 cars?
I don't. I was a little jealous. 27. You know what, though? I'm okay with that. I think as we grow, I prefer the way we do it. And the way we do it seems to make everybody happy. If you're pulling for us, right, you're using your truck to pull our trailers, we're going to compensate. We're going to pay, whatever amount of money it is. And then they feel like their vehicle's being paid for. If they worked for another roofer, they probably would have to use it anyways. Yeah. We cover their fuel, but that all goes onto their paycheck. And obviously they have to write off their miles. Yeah. They have to expense their vehicle. But what that does is it doesn't put that asset in our name because God forbid somebody's in a vehicle that's in our name and they kill somebody. We're not big enough to survive that, And I was curious too, and you don't need an answer.
No, I can.
But your assets for Perfect Steel Solutions, are they structured under different entities?
The machines are.
Good.
So
okay,
the machines are underneath Perfect Ventures. The building, the machines are underneath Perfect Ventures. It's the same company. Obviously, I own everything, but but they're structured. I haven't done because my father did the Perfect leasing for his other properties and cars and things like that.
Is this Perfect name?
And they told me they told me that it doesn't matter how you shelter it if you're worried about liability because the veil will all be uncovered eventually. So if someone wrecks one of your cars,
sure.
With Perfect Steel, they can still go after Perfect Ventures if you own that too. If it's some way they can be tied, you paid rent, you paid the electricity, something like that.
So yeah,
they'll all come after that.
Piercing
eventually.
The corporate veil means commingling funds.
Yeah.
If you don't commingle funds, you can't pierce the corporate veil.
Sure, but it's a line of did we pay rent? Who paid for the asphalt outside?
100%.
Did Perfect Steel? Did Perfect Ventures? Did we transfer the money at the right time?
100%. So for example, you have Perfect Ventures owns these machines. Perfect Steel Solutions needs to pay Perfect Ventures a specific amount for the work.
Let's call it $10,000 a month to rent this building and machines.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that now because it's like this building just got reevaluated for $2 million when I bought it for $600,000, and so the rent went way up. Now again, paid for it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But now it's like $15,000 to $20,000 a month.
But if Austin Fane has $1 million house or $100,000 house paid off, and God forbid somebody falls off a roof, something happens, somebody sues Perfect Steel, they cannot go off after Austin Fane's assets.
No, they can't. They can't come after my assets. They can't come after my assets if they're personal.
Or corporate wise, as long as it's a separate entity. Unless Austin Fane is paying for his groceries out of the corporate account.
Yeah.
Right.
So
now that's piercing the corporate.
Now they can leverage that. They'll have to prove that and things like that, depending on how it goes. So they're like, you don't need to set the vehicles need to be a separate thing, the building and the machines need to be a separate thing, the sales and the liability and the insurance need to be a separate thing. I've thought about doing that, but the people that tell me in the things, they're like, they'll find a way. They'll pay enough lawyers at some point to find a way to get through all that. So, we do the best we can with what we got. Luckily, it's super healthy, and we've, knock on wood, not had that many things.
I was always
our insurance per year. I don't know what your premiums are with workers' comp and things like that, but just to open up our doors every year is $250,000.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah.
Before we do one roof or drive one car or do anything that requires insurance, it's $250,000 per year. So like that's another thing to think about when you go into a company and you're going with like a local guy or a bigger person like me or whatever. It's like there's other costs besides the actual pieces of metal, the screws, the marketing, the sales.
Lots of overhead.
There's lots of different things that go into that. $250,000. Not only does that protect me, but it also protects you. I have to carry that in order to supplement our people in case anything was going on. Like we've had only one job that we've ever needed to use insurance on, where an installer dropped a water bottle down a stink pipe.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know if you were here for that.
I wasn't.
But they dropped a water bottle down a stink pipe, which stopped the backflow thing on the. It stopped whatever the flow of water into the sewer, and so they came home from vacation. We installed it. They loved that we like installed the roof when they were on vacation, so they weren't like around. And when you get back from vacation, what's the first thing you do? You wash all the clothes. You all take showers. You all do all this stuff. You get ready for bed. You wash all the dishes, everything like that, and all the water came up and flooded. I mean, this beautiful $800,000 house, and across the entire first floor. And so I'm in South Dakota killing pheasants at this time, and I get woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning. We're 2 hours ahead and 2 hours behind, and I'm trying to wake up and try to handle this stuff. We got it handled, and that was a hefty insurance bill. But we had to have that for just that case.
Absolutely.
I mean, no one could have predicted that was going to happen.
Was that an in-house crew?
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
Interesting. So...
And they wrote a check, and the customer's very happy.
Sure.
Everything obviously brand new. I mean, at that point, so like people have, but the inconvenience to the customer was meant something. And like that guy, he came into the company, and that's when I still lived in here, and he would sit and rap with me and talk about everything, and really appreciate where I came from and all that other stuff, which was cool. He really understood how I took care of things and what it meant to the company and all that stuff. He goes, I hope this doesn't make an impact. I go, luckily not. It's our first ever problem we've ever had that we couldn't pay cash for.
You're like, bro, you're gone.
Yeah, like
you're out of here,
dude. You're tomorrow. You're yesterday's problems. I'm already on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But it was the only thing that we'd like. I mean, maybe to the tune of $70,000.
Sure.
Of damages.
Yeah.
Water remediation, flooring, cabinets, drywall.
There is, I will say, there is like a weird standard. And I'm actually dealing with this right now with the homeowner. So we have had to hire, AC&R guys because I don't know how. AC&R is like your central air, your HVAC, right?
For what?
So an AC line was punctured by a nail. I don't know what that AC line was doing running through where the soffit was. It kind of went up there, and a nail came through and punctured it, and it caused their central air to not work properly. But we paid that bill. It was our fault. I mean, nobody could have known it was there. However, there is also a standard that says, like, okay, you want a new roof. In order to do a new roof, X, Y, and Z has to happen. If something else is done faulty, created faulty, or built faulty, and indirectly it tampers with that, we can't be held liable. And what's going on is there was a chimney pipe.
Same job?
No, different job.
Okay.
When assembled, it's just set in place. There was nothing fastening those elbows together, no glue, no threads, no solder, whatever.
Not from you guys.
So when we go to put a new boot on, it wiggles the pipe just a little bit, comes right out of the elbow.
Yeah.
And the homeowner's like, listen, I'm not blaming you guys. We've already got quotes from the chimney company. They may have to put a hole in the roof. Can you help us there? And I said, absolutely. Just coordinate with us. We're there. We'll fix the roof. We'll reseal everything. However, I was like, I can't help that whoever built that chimney and put those pipes together did it in such a way that if you just bump it, it all falls apart. Because now they're going to have to go through the drywall to access that elbow to use that chimney.
Yeah.
And I feel terrible, but at the same time, somebody else is bad craftsmanship, we can't be held liable.
Probably 10 times or more a year, we dislodge a furnace pipe or AC vent or something that's a stink pipe, whatever the thing is. And, we have to do that. And there's a fine line depending on, like, we have to put a new pipe on. We have to touch the pipe.
Yeah.
We are so big that we eat it at this point every single time and take all the additional cost on. But I can imagine, if this would have been prevalent in the earlier years, being a real detriment.
Sure.
Because we paid, $2,000 bills now like it's nothing, when that happens. And there's no real way to prevent that because you have to take out the old pipe boot, so it has to move at some point.
Yeah.
But it seems
and that's where, like I said, like the AC line, I can't control that it was ran there, but it was our nail that went through it. Somebody did a poor job on something. I can't be liable for that system failing because of somebody else's poor craftsmanship.
Yeah.
But the homeowner wasn't mad at us at all. They understood exactly what happened. It was just one of those scenarios. It was unique. I never had it happen before. I'm sure there's lots of things that we've never had happen.
Oh my God, you'll run into so much stuff over the next fucking 10 years.
Sure.
It's fucking nuts.
Absolutely.
It's nuts. Well, let's finish up this thing. Is there a message you want to convey to the customers that you would like to see a snippet or anything like that? Is there something that Armando can convey to the populace of like what you guys would do better than the next guys, why they should reach out to you, and when they should reach out to you, that kind of stuff to try to drive some business?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say this to customers at least. Always do your research for anybody in any aspect of any industry that you're going to do. If they're going to build a deck for you, if they're going to install windows at your roof, build an addition onto your home, you should be able to trust your contractor. You should feel confident. There's always that saying, you get what you pay for. And nobody likes that. I do feel like in this industry, everybody wants that subcontractor price, but they want the craftsmanship of the top-notch guys. Sometimes you get lucky, and you get that subcontractor that does incredible work. Other times, you get the shoddy craftsmanship, and that contractor you don't get to call back, and that sucks. I've heard lots of horror stories. So I would say do your homework, do your research into whoever you hire. And more importantly, have a good working relationship with them. I think that's the best thing a homeowner can do, than just go blindly into whatever project that they're about to do.
How many estimates do you think a customer should get?
I don't know. That's a fair question. A simple answer would be 3 to 4. However, estimates can sometimes be diluted the more you get. We've worked with customers that had 4 estimates. We were not the most expensive. We were not the cheapest. They went with us because they liked our product and they liked who we were. That being said, you should be able to trust your company. That goes back into the research. If you're totally new to it, let me give a quick story. Customer down in Wabash, we quoted, he was like, man, you guys are $15,000 more than the last guy that just was out here, said he's willing to put metal on and do a tear off. You guys aren't even doing a tear off. And I told the customer, I said, listen, I know the price of metal. I know all the different, I don't understand how he's getting to that price. So a good friend of mine that lives in Wabash at the time had friends who were cops. And I said, man, this contractor that's down in Wabash is offering these low prices. Have you heard of him? Well, the cops looked him up, and he had a reputation and had already been convicted prior to taking down payments and never showing up. So that is where you got to be weary, right? That is where you got to.
Wabash area has a few people like that.
You got to be, if all of a sudden there's a huge gap difference. That being said, I tell every customer, we do not operate out of a garage. I work from home. I have an office. We have buildings. We have gutter machines. We have people who work for us that essentially are there to service you as the customer that are not installing your roof. I am not the one installing the roof. At least I'm not anymore. I did a while back. So yeah, our prices and our overhead are slightly higher. We don't pay millions a year in advertising, so we can be as aggressive as we can be. That's fair. I know you guys are extremely aggressive. I do think there's that fine point where we're all competitive with each other, and then there's those astronomical guys.
We love running and be the second guy after those guys.
Yeah, we all do.
And then your social media stuff, let's plug that. YouTube, website, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Tell how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, let me plug. First of all, check out Mobile Advisor.
Mobile Advisor.
Mobile Advisor.
What's most important to old Armando over here?
Save some money on your phone bill. I'd love to, look us up. Google Mobile Advisor. I think we're the first up on Google. Click Save Money. Check us out. For $30, we'll lower your phone bill, or we guarantee to give you your money right back. Check us out on Facebook. Allied Exteriors, same thing. Go to our website, look into us, do your research into us.
Is it AlliedExteriors.com?
AlliedExteriors.us.
Okay. I don't know what the difference is.
Well, essentially, it's just a domain thing. I often tell people I had to get permission from Trump to use .us.
Okay.
Not true. .com was already taken. I use .us. When you're searching a brick and mortar company, it's easy to be brought up first because,
cool.
You Google Allied Exteriors, you're in Indiana, you're going to get us. But yeah, check us out on Facebook.
You've done some YouTube stuff?
We've done a little bit of YouTube stuff. We got lots more to do. It mostly ends up on Facebook, but we do have a YouTube channel. We got one video up on there now. We're looking to do a few more videos for sure coming up here. Get some drone footage going.
Yeah.
But absolutely, give us a shout out. One question before we totally wrap up. As far as this goes out to you, Austin, what was one of your hardest struggles or biggest failures, and what did you learn from that?
It would probably have to be relationship balancing between work and this. Now I've gone through 2 full relationships, whether it be divorce or partners with children and things like that. I think there was a guy off Shark Tank. I think it's Kevin
O'Leary.
I
love Kevin O'Leary. Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful himself. He was giving a speech or dissertation or however you want to say it, and he said something along the lines of there was a guy who, while still in school, was created a company that was generating maybe $500,000 $1 million a year. Was doing all that stuff, and he had a girlfriend, and she said if he would leave that company and spend more time with her, then she would stay, or she would leave, and he would offer how hard was it to start a $1 million a year company, and how many girls are there out there that would be eligible after she left? What would be the percentage of you starting another company to finding the same kind of caliber girl? And it kind of speaks for itself. It's like, you got to do what you got to do. It may not always be politically correct to not put relationships first, but do what your heart tells you to do.
Sure.
People will come and go, and especially when you get higher and higher up. There's nothing to be said for the same guy who works a factory job for 25, 30 years and retires early and does woodworking and stuff in his garage. There's nothing wrong with that. Same relationship, be there for his kids, every baseball practice, every sporting event, being there. There's nothing wrong with that. But if there's a call to action and you don't do what you need or you feel in your heart that you should be doing, then if you feel like you're letting either people at work down or your peers or anything like that down, you want to listen to yourself and be true to yourself. Because I've been through some kind of heartbreak a few times, but every single time that I come out of it, it's shown me that there's some people that are here for the long run, and there's some people here for the short run. All those people play a part in where you end up. Mm-hmm. They're not less important. You need those people at that time to get you to where you are, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be in a situation where people don't understand. I know your wife and your kids are very understanding of what you do and how much hard you work.
Yes.
I've been with people in the past that have not understood how hard I worked or what I needed to do, to the effect that it wasn't them anymore. But I needed them to get to where I am now. If I hadn't had those relationships, I wouldn't be the man today that I am, and I wouldn't have grown as a person, because I learned from every single mistake, some of those mistakes being relationships. They don't all have to be business. And if I wouldn't have those people have my back at the time that they had it, I probably wouldn't be here right now. So the balance of work-life stuff is very important, and it's very much overlooked. And if you look up statistics on, ownership at a certain level of income, all that stuff, marriages and stuff are, the percentage of divorce goes up with all those things. And you just got to know that whatever you value, make sure you put that ahead of everything else. And then you try to do the best you can for everyone else, friends, family, relationships. You try to do the best, but take care of whatever you in your heart is telling you to take care of. Everything else will work itself out. And the biggest thing that I could probably, the big example of that is Jimmy. If I had not thrown myself completely at this and been to a point where my best friend in the entire world, closer than a brother to me, would have came down with total failure of the kidneys, and been able to take care of his entire family throughout the year and a half that he couldn't be employed. If he was still at AT&T, they would have not shrugged. They would not tried to do anything. But I got to take care of his family for a year and a half, and that meant more to me than anything, any car, any clothes, any baseball game that I could probably gone to, anything extra that I could have done, every divorce I've went through, or I think that meant more to me than everything.
You feel like that's your purpose?
That's purpose.
That's purpose.
God showed me the right way in the right time, that you just got to keep the faith and do right by everyone that you can possibly do. You don't know if they're going to leave you. They don't know if you're going to stay. You just got to do right. Do the best you can every day. And if you feel like there's a call to action, you are where you need to be, then just stay there. Everything else will work out. The partnerships will work out. The kid stuff will work out. I really do believe that. But you really have to believe you are in the spot you need to be at and keep the faith.
Cool. Is there anything not roof related that you wanted to ask me?
Not roof related.
I mean, I felt like I wanted to try to get away from the roofing, but
it's hard because
hard.
We're totally consumed.
It's easy to talk about.
We're totally consumed by it.
Yeah. Is there anything unroof related? Anything that's been?
So, you have, let's say, not roof related, but business related anyway. You have partners. Mm-hmm. Has there ever been a time where that you try to make decisions, there's stuff held up, different agreements, things that would have benefited the company, having partners that would have slowed you down? Or is there any negatives to having business partners in that aspect? There's a lot of benefits of sharing the workload.
Yeah.
Not talking about that.
Yeah.
Talking about making moves quick enough to.
Yeah. So that goes back to my question to you about putting your friends in management positions. So sometimes there has to be tough conversations, and it's weird talking about it because I know the individual may be watching.
Sure.
And there may be some resentment.
And we can cut this out.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's all right. I mean, it is what it is. I'd say it anyways. So there used to be 4 partners. And because essentially when we started, there were 3 of us, Devin, Jake, and myself. Then we brought Marcus on for canvassing because it's what he loves to do.
He's really good at it.
He's extremely the best I've ever seen.
He's really good at it.
It isn't that he's just good at it. He enjoys and loves it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him so good. But that being said, that partner was supposed to do production, and it wasn't working out that way. Now, this was a time period that I was working 7 days a week. I didn't get a day off. I wore more hats. And we had kind of seen this transition where this individual sometimes would be like, hey, a job's coming up. You got to babysit the subs. You got to do this, make sure things are being delivered. I got a wrestling tournament I got to go to. I got this. And I kind of really felt like I'm working 7 days a week. He may work 1 to 2 days a week. It had gotten to that point. In the beginning, he was working every day with us.
I saw him on top of the roof.
But I had to constantly tell him what to do. It wasn't like what needs to be done. And then it got to a point where money was a big deal. He was the only one that was getting his fuel paid for because he had the diesel. And when he was working 1 to 2 days a week, I was looking at our bank account and we were filling up his truck 2 to 3 times a week. Trips down to Indianapolis, whatever it is. And then there was a point where I would follow up and say, hey, where are we at with returning shingles from this job site? Well, there was only a few bundles left. Homeowner wanted them anyways, which is perfect. We leave a couple bundles anyways. I go out to the job site for docks, and there's brand new boots left behind, a full roll of Omni Roll, which is our ridge vent that we use, and probably about 4 squares of bundles of shingles. And I was thought to myself, man, I think one time and it was consistently that was happening.
Hundreds of dollars worth
and it was
stuff.
Hundreds of dollars at a time where we weren't paying ourselves.
Sure.
So every dollar mattered. And at the same time, he wasn't getting paid either. So I did respect that aspect of it. He had put some money into it, but he hadn't gotten a return, and he probably felt like he was working for free. And I understood his frustration, but it did come to a head where I knew as when we were going to eventually start taking money, if it was going to stay the same and we split things equally 4 ways, but the workload wasn't split equally 4 ways, I could not keep my morale up or my motivation.
Yeah.
And I talked to him. I was the one that had the conversation, and I said, this is a scenario that we're in. And I said, look, we don't know where we're going to be tomorrow. And we were struggling at the time. We're not taking money. And you can't keep going months without taking money. I can't keep going months without taking money. So I said, we can either now at this time pay you back what you put into the business. And I think we paid him half. And then 6 months later, we paid him the other half. But I said, you can either do that, or if we fail, you get nothing back. Nobody gets anything. You lost whatever amount you put in. And he kind of thought about it, and I could tell he didn't want to surrender his, he wanted something, but I told him it just wasn't possible because in my mind, we were all working so very hard and the ball was being dropped over here. And I felt like there was a lot of, I'm sure there was, I'm sure, his parents, I think they were big mentors to him. I met them a few times, and I'm sure they probably don't like Armando. And it was Armando who talked to him and helped him and guided him to this decision. And sometimes people would say, man, he just left a little too soon, but that's not true. Had he had stayed, the company probably would have failed.
Right.
Because I would have been in a scenario that I'm working 7 days a week and I'm getting 30% less income now because I'm splitting it with a fourth person. And that was, it was tough, and I had it, and I'm sure he doesn't like me. And if he sees it, to this day, I'm sorry things went out the way it did. But a lot of promises were made that were not kept. So that was the time that working with a partner didn't work out. From the very beginning, I set a clear expectation that the company eats first. The company is our bread and butter, right? It's what feeds my family. If you've hurt the company, malicious or unintentional, you would be voted off the island.
Yeah.
Because I can't have guys saying racist things or homophobic things on social media or fighting with somebody. And we've had people that may have left us a bad review because they worked with us and somebody wanted to come back hard. And I go, no, it needs to be professional at all costs. If all of a sudden there was a sexual allegation, I made it clear, you're gone. No second chances. And I think that has really helped us out to know where we all stand on things.
Yeah, and where you can stand on things.
And where I can stand on things.
Where you can defend a company that you've set a precedent for.
There was culture in other places. Like I said, people were scared to come in for meetings. That's due to a culture that they experienced. We breed a different culture. I want to be a mentor, not an executioner.
Yeah.
So, but I also hold myself to the same standard, right? And if I screw up, I want them to, I told them, man, if I screw up, get rid of me. Because if I hurt the company, I'm messing with your children's food. So that, everything's worked out.
Fair.
That's partners. If a tip of advice when it comes, I know you're wrapped up in Perfect Steel. You love Perfect Steel. Your goal is to grow Perfect Steel. You're not looking to branch off into another industry. or open another company or invest, whatever. One thing I've learned when starting and failing at multiple things is you hit these roadblocks or you have paralysis by analysis. You have these certain things. Yeah. When you have partners, they hold you accountable. They're like, hey, what's the next step? Or you come to this roadblock and they know how to get over it, whereas you didn't. And when you're by yourself, you're stuck. Yeah. Right. But when you have a partner and they have as much of a pound of flesh into it as you do, they're helping you get over it. And I don't think I'm working on 2 or 3 other things right now. Everything's with a partner. Yeah. I don't think I will solely do something on my own because I feel like every time I do it, I hit a block. I don't know what questions to ask, and I stop what I'm doing.
That's interesting because, like, the way that you described your thought process and how you operate is everyone that's been on this podcast has had a say in absolutely everything. Now, at some point, it's a dictatorship.
Sure.
But, like, they've all had a say, like, depending on what we do and how we do things and the next step. And the coolest thing about me is I'm a fucking idiot. So, like, whatever happens, like, I'm doing the best I can. And if someone has a better idea, you're allowed to have that. We might not do your idea unless it's better than mine.
Right.
My idea is going to be the one we do. Unless you have a better idea, then we'll do your idea.
Yeah.
Like, and people have generally, like, really felt a sense of kinship and felt a sense of partnership in what I do.
Sure.
Because they've had a say in how we operate.
Yeah,
Every single person,
valued. Is that
even
fair?
from the banker, even from my banker, Chad, who has been on a previous podcast, vice president of Lake City Commercial.
Yeah.
And like, he will on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis give me advice. Whether or not I pay attention to that
sure.
is on me. But he's been very prevalent in the decisions that I make on how I do things. He's either been through those, seen those things, and stuff, and it's been really nice to have those people to bounce those ideas off of. At the end of the day, it's just me, but I don't go into it with anything that I know the most at any certain time. Sure. So, like, if you can keep an open mind, do the right things you got to do, but also if there's someone that's smarter than you, is like Tyler, who's my CEO, he's smarter than me on a lot of different things. And so, like, I don't fight him on anything that he has data to prove.
Sure.
Nothing.
Yeah.
There's no way out for me. I like that.
I like that. Yeah. So that was, one of my partners said that too once. He's like, we're able to have a two-way conversation. I'm able to be wrong. Sometimes people say, oh, you're always right.
Yeah. We're not emotional like some of the other people that we surround
I'm
ourselves
okay with being wrong. And, but you can't just tell me I'm wrong. You have to show me I'm wrong. You bring the data, it's all there. You're open to hearing people and their ideas. Again, you might not go with the idea, but that does create value, which again goes back to being a good leader. Because if you don't, and if people just feel like it's Austin's way or the highway, you might not have as many people stick around that you do. Yeah, that's fair.
Armando, I've really appreciated you coming on the podcast. Hope we do another one
I hope so too.
Soon. I hope you continue to grow Allied Exteriors. Again, look them up on Facebook. Reach out to them. They do shingles, unlike Perfect Steel, so that could be a venue that you guys go after. Again, a confidant, somebody that that I trust in the thing, and I would tell you guys if that ever doesn't become the case, but I'm a very trustworthy person, just like the other people that I had on here. The competitors that I show you guys, those are the dudes that are real. No, those are the guys that will take care of you. If my name has any weight at all, for the things that we don't offer, siding, shingles, that kind of stuff, you can definitely reach out to those guys. Facebook, YouTube, all those things. They're allied.com.us.
.us.
Look them up and give them a shot.
US.
Thanks, guys.
Please remain